All right, welcome everyone to the annual goals meeting. We're going to call order. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Adam?
Here.
Here. Councilmember Newman?
Here.
Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Engler?
Here.
And Mayor Taylor?
Here. All right, if you are able, can you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, right hand over your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next up is public comments. All comments for the study session will be heard now as well. Will the city clerk please announce public comments?
This is the time and place for public comments. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. 2 individuals have requested to speak, and pursuant to council standards, speakers are allowed 3 minutes. You have a yellow light, displays when you have 1 minute remaining. Thank you.
All right, and if I'm not seeing my list of speakers.
I'll call the first one Richard.
Thank you. This is a nice change up, isn't it? All right, Richard, you have 3 minutes. And if we
Okay.
start getting close to the end, I'll just, you'll have the light, so keep an eye on the light.
Great. So my name is Richard. I've been a resident of Thousand Oaks since 1974. First of all, I'd like to thank every one of you council members for all that you do, the service that you do, the dedication you have for such a beautiful city that we live in here. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Watched this city grow quite a bit since 1974, and done a great job. I'd like to also mention a little bit of my background. I've served our country 4 years in the United States Navy during the Vietnam War era. And I think it's worthy to mention my dad. My dad was a World War II veteran, actually a Purple Heart veteran. So I've got a little patriotism built up in me, right? Matter of fact, that flag right there, when we say the Pledge of Allegiance, it really kind of gets me going patriotically too, when it says one nation under God. That's one of the reasons, that's the main reason I'm here today, to let you know that I support In God We Trust, put up in the city council chambers here. So that's why I'm here today. It's just a nice segue, I thought, to mention the military background I have and to segue into In God We Trust. So that said, I got to ad-lib this a little bit, I brought a couple of nice pictures of other city council chambers that have already done this, and no projector today. So I believe you have pictures in front of you. Great, wonderful. Like we're doing it the old-fashioned way again, aren't we? Yeah. So that said, the first one you're looking at is looking at my notes now, a little off because I can't look at it myself. The first one you see there is a picture of Fillmore. If you look at it closely, the picture of Fillmore, you'll see In God We Trust, and it's placed right on the very top, right by the ceiling itself. You know, highest place they could put that thing, which I think in a way is a nice symbolism in itself. But there's another one from Channel Islands I didn't give you, which I thought was I didn't like the picture itself. It was a little off. I thought it wasn't quite, didn't do it justice. The last one that you see that you have on your desk here, or she's showing over here, thank you, is the city of Anaheim. And if you take a look at that one, it's my favorite. It's a beautiful rendering of In God We Trust over the insignia, and then it's got the American flag and the California flag framing it. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful picture that is. Take a close look at that. It's gorgeous. Other than that, we have other nice Okay, I would just say, cut it short and just say, remember, we have the 250th birthday coming up. Great thing, and being that I'm out of time, I will just say thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Richard.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you.
Next up will be Stella.
Good evening, Council. I have a dear friend named Richard, and Richard and I see things very differently politically. He is, however, a dear, dear friend, and occasionally reminds me of this one truth. Stella, we have more in common than we don't. So I come here in that same spirit. We have more in common than we don't. Weeks ago, I was here listening to concerns about ICE. One person that spoke shared the locations of ICE and the information as to how to report ICE in your area. My question is, do you think it would be fair to say that the reason for this is to potentially try and block ICE from doing their job? During that meeting, I also heard the words, "love thy neighbor," several times, as if potentially blocking ICE is truly loving our neighbors. The thing we have in common is that, of course, we feel empathy for any good, decent human being that has come here illegally and now has to be deported. There are people that have come simply trying to escape horrific circumstances. That is a given. Wouldn't you say, though, that when the intention is to block ICE from doing their job, that the risk is that people like Robert Joaquin, who came here illegally and beat a woman to death with a hammer, may not be caught? This happened just this month, and as we know, is one of many, many examples. So I ask you, is blocking ICE really loving thy neighbor? I can't imagine that anyone on both sides of the aisle want people like this on our streets. That is something we also have in common. There is no easy answer. However, the fact remains that the people that are being deported, no matter the reason, are here illegally, and ICE is trying to make our streets safer. I also heard some very dangerous rhetoric at that same city council meeting where a person referred to detention centers as concentration camps. As we all know, this is an untruth. As we also all know, this is dangerous rhetoric, has the potential to get into the hearts and minds of the wrong individuals. We have already seen this, Tyler Robinson and the killing of Charlie Kirk, and now just the other day, the attempted murder of our president. Yet once again, these individuals believe they are heroes, that they are doing society a favor by taking out these Nazi-esque-like individuals. It all starts with what is going on in their psyches. So please, I beg you, let's be more careful with our words. Abraham Lincoln said, "We have forgotten God." Look around you. That is evident. Please consider placing the words, "In God we trust," in our council chambers here. After all, it's about connection, never separation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stella. And next up, we have Paul Johnson.
I'm glad I finally made it. It was a little tortuous path. I didn't get the memo. I'm Paul Johnson. I live in Moore Park. I moved to Thousand Oaks in 2002. So I'm part of the neighborhood. I think we should have "In God We Trust" as our motto, shown everywhere to keep focus of what our Creator is and the benefits that derive by His providence. I support ICE. I think sanctuary city is illegal, and it condones crime. So don't do it. But my main reason to be here is I want to bring to the attention of all present, if you don't already know, what's going on in Riverside County. Last year, 2025, we had that Prop 50 special election. And it turns out when they look at the numbers, they have 657,000 votes, but only 611,000 ballots, which, it should kind of be matched. So Chad Bianco decided looks like there's a problem here. And, but the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, said, "Oh no, don't check those, don't investigate that. People might have less confidence in the elections." Well, Rob, what are you trying to hide? Yeah, there is a problem with confidence in the elections. And that's kind of why I'm here. The current Ventura County Clerk is not doing a good job at allowing citizens to look at the process, and it's been going worse over time. It used to be the community came together, we had an election, the citizens counted the votes, turned in the votes, but now we've passed it off to a corporation, and the city clerk, doesn't even participate. There's some Chinese fellow shows up and runs the whole thing. So I think there needs to be a change. I think there's a problem with the elections in Ventura County, and the solution to that problem is me. I'm running for Ventura County Clerk. I'm going to ensure that the elections are fraud-free and error-free. I'm going to get people kicked off the voter rolls who don't belong on the voter rolls. I go door to door, and last year, leading up to the election, I was told my friend who hasn't lived in California for 10 years didn't get a ballot in 2024, but she got a ballot in 2025, and she cast the ballot. She doesn't even live here. This is going on too much. It needs to be cleaned up, and I'm the new sheriff to clean it up. Thank you very much.
All right, next up is going to be our study session. City Manager Drew Powers will begin the presentation, which will also include an overview of the Community Attitude Survey done by True North Research President Dr. Tim McLerney.
Thanks so much, Mayor Taylor, City Council, community. Before we begin tonight's priority setting discussion, I wanted to take a moment to recognize what I believe has been a very, very strong and productive year for the city of Thousand Oaks. And as we sit here, as some of the speakers mentioned, this is a fantastic setting. I want to credit our cultural and community services team that put this together along with TOTV. This takes a lot of work to move off-site out of our chambers, and just a beautiful job. I really want to acknowledge, in particular, Mr. Carl Jarecki right here. This is his last goal setting with us. 37 years with our organization. He's retiring this summer in July, and he's been here. He took measurements to get everything calculated in case we want to come back here again next year. This level of detail and precision. We appreciate Carl so much and that team. Over the past year, we have continued to make meaningful progress across a wide range of our important initiatives. And I'm extremely proud of what has been accomplished by this organization in partnership with the City Council. That progress is a reflection of a great deal of hard work by staff across all of our departments, strong collaboration with our community and partner agencies, and most importantly, a high level of alignment with this City Council as the city's policy setting body. That alignment matters. It allows us to move forward with clarity, to stay focused on the issues that matter most to the community, and to make steady progress on day-to-day service, deliver strong strategic priorities. I believe our accomplishments this past year demonstrate that when the council and staff are working from a shared understanding of priorities, the community benefits. We have also strengthened the organization itself over the course of the past year. A number of outstanding senior level hires from across multiple disciplines have joined our team. They weren't here with us at the last goal setting, but they are this year. And those additions have enhanced our leadership capacity. They've brought new energy and expertise into the organization, and they've really positioned us very well for the work that lies ahead. I'm very optimistic about the team we have in place and the city's ability to continue delivering at a very, very high level. Tonight's discussion is also especially timely because we will be hearing results of the Community Attitude Survey. I view that survey as an important report card for the city. It gives us valuable feedback, something that's been part of our city's history for a very long period of time. It gives us feedback on how our residents see the organization, the services that we provide, and the direction of the community overall. It is encouraging to have that perspective as we begin this conversation tonight. With that, we're going to begin with some updates from the team on last year's priorities. We will be grouping these in batches to allow a bit more dialogue along the way rather than waiting to the very end of the 10 updates. I'll open it up for questions at some intervals along the way. And then following those updates, we'll hear our presentation on the 2026 Community Attitude Survey results, and then we'll conclude with our priority setting exercise. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Assistant City Manager Ingrid Hardy to kick things off this evening.
Thank you, Drew. Good evening, Mayor Taylor, members of the City Council. I'm excited to be here to provide you with our first update of the evening. And my update is on homelessness. And more importantly, the measurable progress we are beginning to see. Your policy direction to invest in local coordinated solutions has translated into meaningful on-the-ground impact. The Thrive Grove Navigation Center is approaching its one-year anniversary on June 9th. And in that relatively short time, it has become a cornerstone of our local response to homelessness. The facility has maintained full occupancy, with referrals continuing to outpace the available beds, an indication of both the need and the effectiveness of Thrive Grove. Importantly, those referrals are being well coordinated across key partners, including our police department, the County of Ventura, Mini Mansions, 211, Harbor House, and our operator, Hope the Mission. While the facility is still in its early stages, we are seeing tangible outcomes on how the Navigation Center is beginning to meet its intended outcome. To date, there have been 4 positive exits, 3 individuals have been placed into permanent housing, and 1 individual has secured full-time employment as a live-in caregiver. These outcomes are not incidental, and they reflect the strength of the Navigation Center model. The wraparound services provided at Thrive Grove are stabilizing individuals prior to being placed, they're streamlining access to critical services, they're strengthening coordination between interim and permanent housing providers to ensure that there's a warm handoff, and they're bringing individuals indoors so they're not waiting for housing while living on the streets. Importantly, the availability of a local resource has also had a direct impact on encampments within our community. With a viable indoor option and coordinated outreach, individuals who were previously living in encampments now have a place to go, allowing outreach teams and law enforcement to more effectively engage, resolve, and reduce encampment activity. As a result, we are seeing fewer and less persistent encampments in key areas, reflecting a shift from unmanaged outdoor living conditions to a more structured and service-connected approach. The local progress is also reflected in our broader trends. Countywide, homelessness has decreased by 28% since 2023, with unsheltered homelessness down by 34%. Notably, Thousand Oaks has experienced the largest reduction in unsheltered homelessness in the county, with a 46% decrease since our last point-in-time count. These results speak to what is possible when policy direction, local investment, and strong partnerships are aligned. The opening of Thrive Grove, combined with the dedicated work of our nonprofit partners and the continued commitment of Thousand Oaks Police Department, has made a meaningful difference in our community. And so at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Paris for his updates on homelessness and public safety.
Thank you, Ingrid. Mayor Taylor and council members, as expressed by Assistant City Manager Ingrid Hardy, we are proud to have made significant progress in addressing homelessness in 2025. As you're aware, in 2024, we improved upon our homeless intervention strategies by supplementing our 2 full-time vulnerable population officers with patrol officers that were collaterally trained to help them in their duties. What this did is this helped us really speed up the process. And with all this stuff, Thrive Grove has been a huge addition to it. As we were kind of behind the curve a couple of years ago on homelessness, we're now in front of it and able to address things much more efficiently, much more quickly, and we're having a lot better outcomes. It's exciting to see Thrive Grove's impact, not only on the homeless population, but on my deputies, just to express the gratitude from them, where that can be a frustrating job for them as they're dealing with the same people over and over again, and to have a spot that allows them to see positive outcomes they're seeing makes a big difference to them and to them being able to do their job. So thank you for that. In 2025, the Sheriff's Office completed its second year of using the FBI's new National Incident-Based Reporting System. We saw an overall reduction in crime of 8% compared to 2024. But with only 2 years of data under that new system, we're not ready to make any determinations about long-term trends at this time. I can tell you, though, in several specific categories, reports of burglary, robbery, and rape were all down in 2025. We had a 39% reduction in commercial burglary, which is just incredible. And we only had 51 reports of residential burglary in 2025. That's 16% reduction from the year before. But more importantly, this is our third year in a row of having record low residential burglaries, something that just a few short years ago was really plaguing our community. One area that still continues to be a problem is domestic violence. That's driving an uptick in our aggravated assaults. I am hopeful, though, that the city's support of an East County Family Justice Center will bring some much-needed resources into town that will help address that problem and give our residents a place to go to get some much-needed resources. Traffic safety continues to be a key focus of the Thousand Oaks Police Department. In 2022 and 2023, we had a large spike in traffic fatalities that were almost exclusively related to DUIs. After adjusting deployment of our traffic unit, emphasizing DUI enforcement with our patrol forces, and educating our alcohol-serving establishments, we try to take a holistic approach to it. We've have held traffic fatalities to only 2 per year for the last 2 years in a row. I believe it was 8 in 2022 and 9 in 2023, so a significant reduction there. An emerging traffic safety issue, which we're all talking about, is the proliferation of e-bikes, and in particular e-motorcycles, which are illegal to ride on any of our roadways. We have worked with both Conejo Valley School District, Conejo Valley Recreation and Park District on a community educational outreach on e-bike laws, and we've heavily increased our enforcement, particularly of e-motorcycles. We're towing those when we find them on the roadway. We're also talking with County Board of Supervisors and our state legislators about effective regulations to help curb that problem. The support of the City Council has been invaluable as we invest in technology that makes us more efficient. These technology investments have paid off in the reduced crime statistics shared earlier. Our license plate reader system recently helped us identify, locate, and arrest a registered sex offender who committed sexual battery at one of our malls against an 18-year-old female. License plate readers, body-worn cameras, and even updated data management software have helped us solve crimes and secure convictions against the perpetrators. Very soon, I hope to bring to Council a proposal for a drone as first responder program for the City of Thousand Oaks. This program would place pre-positioned drones throughout the city that would be remotely piloted out of our dispatch center in Ventura. These drones have the capability of reducing our response time significantly, resulting in gathering valuable information for responding deputies, making it safer for them and increasing the probability of solving the crime. Maintaining the city's status as one of the safest places to live requires the support of everybody who lives here. Whether it's a coffee with a cop, the disability fair, our yearly station open house, or meeting one-on-one with residents, we make a concerted effort to be available to hear the concerns of our residents. These concerns we then incorporate in how we do our jobs. And one of those examples is the Blue Envelope program. This is something that came out of the Coffee with a Cop that we did in partnership with the Autism Society. It is now a countywide program helping those with disabilities who are drivers clearly communicate their conditions to officers who pull them over. Thank you for your investments you're making in public safety and your continued support of the women and men of the Thousand Oaks Police Department in our shared mission to keep Thousand Oaks a wonderful place to live. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan Roman.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good evening, Mayor Taylor, council members. I'm pleased to share an update on our efforts regarding emergency preparedness and wildfire mitigation priority. Over the past year, the city's worked closely with TOPD and Jeremy's team, Ventura County Fire, and the Ventura County Office of Emergency Services to strengthen public safety with a clear focus on mitigation and long-term resiliency, and that work will continue in the coming year. As part of this effort, in February 2025, this council approved an MOU for the East County Family Justice Center, committing up to $2 million towards acquisition of the property. Staff is collaborating with the County of Ventura currently and plan to bring an item before you in the coming months. Over the past year, staff partnered with multiple agencies to produce home hardening content that garnered tens of thousands of social media views. Our strategic communications team delivered quick tips and clear information to help residents harden their homes and highlighted our efforts to mitigate risk by removing invasive palm species citywide. In collaboration with Ventura Regional Fire Safe Council, the city co-hosted several home hardening workshops, during which dozens of homeowners gained actionable insights to protect their properties from wildfire. Just for reference, Thousand Oaks currently has 11 Firewise communities. To better target these outreach efforts, staff also incorporated emergency preparedness questions into the community attitude survey. In collaboration with TOPD and Ventura County Office of Emergency Services, this data will help us assess awareness, refine outreach, promote VC Alert, which is the county's emergency communications system, and drive measurable improvements in resident preparedness. You'll be hearing from True North Research shortly after our updates with an overview of the community attitude survey results. Beyond outreach, a key focus has been strengthening infrastructure resiliency, particularly ensuring continuity during prolonged power outages. This council reinforced this priority through the most recent capital improvement program budget adoption, dedicating millions of dollars towards this effort. Citywide, we maintain 136 traffic signals, all equipped with battery backup systems lasting 6 to 10 hours. We also have 36 portable generators to extend operations when needed. Currently, 71 intersections, or approximately 50%, have permanent generator connectors. The remaining intersections are scheduled for completion by the end of this fiscal year. In addition, 96 intersections, which roughly 70%, have been upgraded with yellow reflective backplates to improve visibility during outages. The remaining installations are planned for completion in fall of 2026 in the next fiscal year budget. We're also making major improvements in water and wastewater resiliency. While Public Works will be providing some details on the infrastructure during their infrastructure update, key efforts include reservoir hardening, backup power systems, interconnects, SCADA upgrades, and disinfection improvements. Altogether, this represents approximately 20 projects and a $23 million investment currently underway or planned in the existing budget. Additional resiliency and public safety improvements include a microgrid and backup power system at the Municipal Service Center, ensuring continuity of first responder operations, along with EV charging and emergency power for the MSC fleet and Thousand Oaks Transit. The city is also investing approximately $20 million over the next 2 years to strengthen the city's wastewater collection and treatment systems, ensuring reliable service even during power disruptions. In total, the city and this council have committed more than $45 million to resiliency projects, either currently underway or planned in this 2-year budget cycle. Thank you. Those concludes my updates.
Thank you, Ryan. We're going to take one of our pauses here and give the council an opportunity to ask us any questions or any comments you've got about the items you've heard so far.
Anyone want to start? Looking right at Bob. Bob, you want to start?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sure, I'll get the ball rolling a little bit.
I can
Thanks.
always count on you. You know, I'm just trained now to look at you and go, all right, buddy.
Lots of good things going on, and I appreciate the reports. I don't think the general public realizes the amount of work that's going on just underneath the surface, and actually that's a good thing because when things are going bad, that's when it gets the attention of folks, and things are going well. So with that, Ms. Hardy, the Thrive Grove location, we've been in service now a little less, about a year now. We had designed that and built that for additional units as needed. Where are we on any determination of the need there for completely building it out?
Thank you, Councilmember, or Mayor Pro Tem, my apologies. So yeah, as you stated, the Thrive Grove, it's built for 50 beds. We currently have 30 beds. Right now, the referrals are outpacing the beds available. So we have updated numbers from our contractor in case there is a decision to move forward with the expansion. Our operators also keeping their eyes on the needs there, and we've also been in constant communication with Thousand Oaks Police Department as well as the county. So the need is there, and it's a matter of timing and when the city council is prepared to do so.
And we've had four people move off that location. Is that a function of them being ready to move, or is it simply a function of there's no available locations for them to move to?
It is a function of them being prepared to move. So when an individual enters into the navigation center, the case manager works with them on becoming housing ready. And so as a result of those wraparound services, they've been able to place 4 individuals. And of course, that's also going to depend on the availability of housing too.
Thank you. I have other questions, but let others talk.
Maybe if I'll add as well we're less than a year in on the first year of operations. We're in careful discussions, not just the council. Remember, there is an operational expense with building. There is also the ongoing operations at the site. And so dialing that in is something that Ingrid and Melissa and team are working very carefully with our operators to have a good handle on understanding not just the brick and mortar of the facility, but the operations at the facility. Because once a decision is made to expand, that's not going to just be the cost to expand, but also the annual ongoing expense associated with expanding and adding those additional beds attached to it. So when we come to you, we're going to want to have all that information holistically.
That's good. Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. I'd also like to just ask a question along the lines of Councilmember Engler here. He almost asked my question. I remember there was a 6-month time frame that we were hopeful for, right? Like ideal, or where are we pacing towards that? Like, are we seeing it longer or shorter? I'm sure it's all case by case, but of the very exciting 4 positive exits, what were the timelines on those?
So for those exits, well, first let me take a step back and say that just countywide, we are seeing that people are staying in temporary housing longer than the 180 days. So for those individuals, they've been there less than a year, and we are right around that between those individuals that are leaving on their own or individuals that, it's just not a good fit for them there. It's been less than a year, so anywhere from 7 to 8 months that they're staying housed there. So.
I appreciate you calling out the positive exits, or when folks are self-selecting. Is that the same time frame they'll wait, or they'll they'll give it a go for the 7-8 month period and then decide, or is that happening sooner? And my only interest in learning more about that is the turnover and availability,
Right.
because the need is so great.
It really depends on the individual. So the housing case managers are working with them to explore all of their housing options and what is the next best step. So I can't say like it is an absolute like 7 or 8 month stay. Really depends on the person.
So in both cases, whether they are positively exiting or self-selecting an exit.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I had one more question related to wildfire preparedness. Well, I'm very proud that we have a lot of fire-wise communities. I know that Drew shared the most in the county in one city, so very proud of that. I imagine those communities are homeowners, where they have a lot more autonomy and say in the hardening that happens in their spaces. And I wondered if there was any conversation or city support to speak with current development owners or just our current renting, leasing, property management entities, HOAs even, to promote this type of collective hardening.
Yeah, so we have a tremendous organization in this county, the Ventura County Regional Fire Safe Council, and we've been not only one of their kind of chief supporters, but we've actually been funding via COSCA, funding that entity. It's a nonprofit, and in fact, Mayor Pro Tem Zingler's significant other is on the board over there. And so we really stepped forward after council's conversations last year to bring them more center stage here. And we actually hosted a number of workshops in this library that were specific to bringing all groups. There is something for everyone within here. Whether that be an emergency preparedness basis, understanding evacuation routes, understanding, the small things you can do around your home. But a lot of the work on home hardening is geared towards single family and, duplex type residential, because it is about mitigating wildfire spread. Inherently, our multifamily home locations in the rental stock that we have in this community are safer from wildfire because of where they're generally located. And a lot of them are newer construction in many cases. And most importantly, they don't have the some of the things you have in a single family home that would cause more danger. But we can absolutely continue to engage with them and put that as a priority to add more outreach and information to that sector.
Thank
I
you.
was just going to add too, on the Ventura County Fire website, there's a whole page dedicated to how to get involved with the Firewise community. So just want to make sure the public knew that was out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Adams.
Mayor, if I may, my apologies. I do want to correct one thing. I'm looking at a report on your question, Councilmember Gutierrez. The average length of stay to date is 121 days. So that's less than the 6 months. Thank you for letting me make that clarification.
Well, I must say these numbers that I'm hearing tonight on the decrease in homelessness in the city in Thousand Oaks are very encouraging. I mean, they're not incremental at all. I mean, some cities counted a victory to decrease homelessness by a few percentage points, and here we are at anywhere from 1/3 to 1/2. That's just a really very encouraging results, and I'm so glad that the encampments are under control, and I think the public is as well. It's a dangerous place to be, and I think we've got that under control. David and I visited Thrive Grove together, and it was just incredible to meet the people there, and they were so grateful to be in Thrive Grove and not some broken down RV somewhere, trying to get by, and it was just very happy to meet those folks. And would you say that, I mean, I guess generally Thrive Grove is full. almost all the time, right?
Correct.
We're filled to the brim. Okay, well, hopefully, we can do that expansion, and I'm sure that it would be used. Do you think when the Family Justice Center is finally created, do you think there'll be some connection between Thrive Grove and the Family Justice Center in some way?
I can say that. Yeah, absolutely, there will be. In our experience in dealing with that population, they'll absolutely benefit from the services that are coming. Any services we can get closer to help is going to make a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Most of the people we met at Thrive Grove, maybe not most of them, but the ones we met were older folks. But I could see where maybe kids might be there someday, depending on the familial situation. Oh, and since you're up here, so we're going to get a couple of drones? You're looking to get some drones?
Yeah, so we're looking at a drone as first responder program, as they call that. We have a drone program already that's patrol-based. So every day, any time of the day, we have a deputy that has a drone in the back of his unit so that he can use that on calls. Obviously, it's much cheaper than flying a helicopter over to do kind of the same work.
Right.
The drone as first responder puts those pre-placed. And what we do is we take a map of our calls and our serious calls, and we look at those and position them. What we're aiming for is to get to those calls in like under 2 minutes, like 90% of our priority 1 calls. Right now, our average is almost just under 7 minutes. So you're looking at that difference. There's some other tech coming on too that probably will come later, where we can dispatch those even earlier, potentially before the call's even entered into the CAD system. So there's a potential in the future that we could be on scene with the drone before the call even goes out on the radio, because there's just minutes that go by as things are getting entered.
So the drones could get there first?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
That's
interesting.
We've done a lot of research on this. The capabilities are really neat. They fly autonomously to the location. The pilot just has to kind of make sure there's nothing that's the drone's not seeing that's an obstacle. From there, it's very simple. It's point and click. It'll follow cars. It'll zoom in license plates. It's pretty amazing technology.
Yeah, I could see where that would be a safety issue as well.
Yeah.
Look
Yep,
at the scene before the deputies arrive.
Yeah, that's one of the big things is you can get a lot of intel for the deputies before they even
Right.
get there. The colors of clothing of suspects, things like that really help, whether there's weapons or not. All those kind of things can be seen ahead of time. Oxnard's already started a drone as first responder program. I think they're like 6 or 8 months into it so far. So we're consulting with them too to learn from what they've learned.
Anything else on your wish list?
No, that's the big thing.
We're good with the drones.
It's not going to be super cheap, so
Okay,
I'll tell you right now. It's going to make a big improvement, but it's not going to be super cheap.
Well, you let us know.
I will.
All right?
Yep.
All right, doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to follow up on a couple of points Mayor Pro Tem Engler raised regarding Thrive Grove. It sounds like demand is very high. I did a ride-along with the vulnerable population officers the week before it opened, and they said, yeah, no problem. We can fill 30 beds right now. We've got a list. It's longer than 30. Is it our sense as well that if we are able to find funding to add the 20 units and to find the funding for continued operational budget, is it our sense that we would be able to fill 50 beds as well, the way all 30 are currently full? Is that the level of demand now?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Great.
no problem. And I'll just say again, the way it's gone, it's, first, definitely we filled 30, no problem. But there were some people that were skeptics in the homeless community that were nervous about it. That's gone. The words got around that it's a great place to go. You're getting the help. There's the kind of things they were worried about didn't materialize. So, yeah, definitely we can fill it.
I'm encouraged to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard personally over and over from folks who said just having a safe place to be was a big step up for them.
Yes.
So I'm glad more folks are feeling that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And as Councilmember Adam mentioned as well, once folks were there, they really felt that their lives were improving and turning around, and they were looking forward to a better future, which is not the case for someone living in an arroyo somewhere.
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's better for everybody all the way around.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Great. Thanks to the vulnerable population team. Very grateful for the work they do.
I will let them know.
Please do. And then the other question I had, just very quickly, is as folks transition through there, is it also our sense that if, and this is a big if the supply of permanent supporting housing were larger, that the rate at which we could move folks through there? I realize every case is different. Everyone's an individual, has different needs. But if there were a greater supply of permanent supportive housing, would we be better able to place folks once they and the support team feels they're ready to go?
Yes. The answer to your question is yes. County staff actually provided an update to the Board of Supervisors today. And currently countywide, there are 192 units under construction. So that's going to help the county numbers. And then units in pre-development, there's 875. So, of course, that's going to take some time to build all of these units, but as more housing becomes available countywide, then there will be more opportunities to place people into permanent housing.
I'm very encouraged to hear there will be more options for this, because that's really the final piece of the puzzle, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the permanent housing, and then there's also the rental assistance, in which the county has been directing more dollars towards rental assistance as well. So you have organizations like the United Way, who has experienced significant success with their landlord engagement program. So what they're doing outside of this countywide framework is they're identifying housing units that are not a part of like the permanent housing network, but they're placing individuals and families into these households and providing them with assistance like first and last month's rent and security deposits so that they can become stabilized.
So as folks get their lives stabilized, as they get jobs, as they're ready to move on with their lives, we're finding permanent places for them to go. Excellent.
And to that point, it's a great point that folks forget about. The difference of a facility like this is the wraparound services attached to it. Once folks are individually assigned a case manager and find out what their individual circumstances are, they may have veterans benefits, disability benefits, they may have family in the Midwest. They may have skills, as you heard, one of our placements was a caregiver, was able to get placement in a home as a live-in caregiver. And so there are all kinds of paths, once you're stabilized, all kinds of paths to placement that our team over there is having a lot of success with.
Great. Thanks so much.
Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. I just wanted to, maybe this is for Chief Paris, but you mentioned fewer or less key encampments in town, and I just wanted, again, just for the public's knowledge on how we address encampments that are still lingering or just are still present and prevalent.
So I talked to Senior Deputy Battle just before we started the meeting. We have no encampments in the city of Thousand Oaks right now. That's really was a function of, one, having this resource, the Thrive Grove, two, being able to enforce the law. Now we do have some people that are homeless that are sleeping on city property at night, which they're allowed to do, and packing their things up and moving around during the day and sleeping in at night. Now, the great thing with that is, in my experience here, being here for 5 years, when we first got here, we had some big encampments, and we had some serious violence going on in there. We had rodent infestations, pest infestations. All those go away when we don't have the encampments that are lingering. And so it's been really important, one, for their own safety and health and safety, for the health and safety of the people living around those encampments, that we don't allow that kind of encampment to grow. However, there are people that are still, there's some people still living out of cars. That's where we're at now is mostly people living out of cars, and we have a few people that are sleeping on city property tonight and wandering around. But we do not have any encampments anymore. I think we had 5 major encampments 5 years ago, including the one at the 23 in Jans, which was our largest by far. So we've made a lot of progress. But some of that was just changing case law that allowed us to do things.
Wonderful. Thank you for that insight. And I think not being here 5 years ago to hear the gravity and presence within the city, sometimes that can be lost in comparison, right? So I appreciate the context and the historical look back, and then just great work to you and your teams.
Thank you.
All right, we have one more for Bob Engler before we move on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I was here 8 years ago, and I did peek at the survey. I think one of the number one or number two concern of the citizens 8 years ago was homelessness. It's now dropped way down in our survey. I think because of the efforts that people like Assistant City Manager Hardy and the police have done to really address this issue and get some good results from it. So kudos to everybody on that. There's another area I think that is of concern now, and that is of emergency preparedness. The thing I've heard from a lot of people is evacuation. How am I going to get out if I have to? I noticed in our survey that 20%, 25% of the people have not signed up for VC Alert. That's the minimum people should do. Is there anything else that they should know about evacuation?
Yeah, VC Alert's our main avenue of alerting people to the most up-to-date information. You're going to see this year, both the city and through the police department, as we give presentations on e-bikes, for instance, at the end we're going to say, oh, and make sure you sign up for VC Alert. You're going to see a big push of us at everything we're doing, really pushing for VC Alert. Behind the scenes, what a lot of people don't know is over the last few years, I've personally watched some things go along with traffic and evacuations. You saw in Pacific Palisades where they were using heavy earth-moving equipment to move cars. I attended a briefing about the fires in Hawaii where people died in their cars. The mountain fire in Camarillo had some traffic issues that got pretty serious as looky-loos came into the area to see the flames and were actually impeding, in particular, at one point, a school bus trying to get to a school to evacuate the school. What we've done, the Sheriff's Department, is we have a team called the Tactical Response Team that does our evacuations for us. We now, the traffic units of Thousand Oaks, Camarillo, and Moore Park will work together whenever they're deployed to then try to get roadways clear for both people to come out, but also for fire equipment and any vehicles needed to evacuate to get in and to keep the looky-loos out. Because it definitely is a problem.
And the best way to get that information is via VC Alert?
VC Alert, yeah, and then VCEmergency.com is another place where you can check for updates that are happening. But VC Alert's critical that people are signed up to VC Alert.
So you recommend not X, but VC Alert?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have any questions, but these numbers are amazing. 28% countywide down homelessness, 46% Thousand Oaks, almost 40% reduction in commercial burglary. The residential, that was a big thing 4 years ago. I love hearing that we're at record lows. So just overall, great work, everyone. Mr. Powers, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Assistant City Manager Opera Alicon to talk about downtown.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Mayor Taylor, members of the City Council. I could probably talk about this next piece for the next few hours, but I'll contain it to the next few minutes. This has been a banner year for the downtown project. We're now on the precipice of a major milestone. We're preparing the downtown project for public hearings. I think it's important we take just a second to take a step back and realize it's been nearly 9 years in the making to get to this point. And that was when the city first embarked on a document called the Downtown Core Master Plan. We have officially noticed the Planning Commission hearing set for May 18th, We have tentatively set the City Council public hearing for June 23rd, which will be noticed publicly in just a couple of weeks. I want to summarize just what we've been up to over the past year. We've made some steady, meaningful progress on the project. Here are just a few council highlights to name. Out the gate, after last year's priority setting, we held not one, but 2 City Council workshops in May and June. At the May 2025 workshop, we summarized all the robust community feedback we received and how it influenced the proposed program we shared that night. We also shared a high-level project funding overview and introduced tax increment financing as a potential tool to pursue in cooperation with the county. We're still engaged with the county in pursuing that. The brand of tax increment financing we are pursuing is called Enhanced Infrastructure Financing Districts, or EIFD for short. Just the following month, in June of 2025, staff and design team shared an updated rendering of the conceptual plan. We received direction from the council to formalize that plan into an actual application that could be evaluated. In July, we processed the second batch of surplus land resolutions as well. In addition to all these council actions, we've also met with the City Council Ad Hoc Committee on 6 occasions over the past year. Mayor Taylor and Councilmember Adam have been instrumental in continuing to help guide the project as we've worked to refine the application over the past 9 months. Between September 2025 and April 2026, really up until this very month, the downtown project, much like any other application that has come into the city, has been undergone several rounds of extensive review with every single discipline within City Hall, including our agency partners, Ventura County Fire Department and the County Sheriff's Office. This alone was a Herculean effort on the part of our designers, RRM and Smith Group, as well as staff, to provide thorough and timely feedback on what was a fairly large application packet with a lot of detail to go through. I want to give a special shout out to our new Economic Development Manager, Justine Kendall, as well as our Planning Manager, Kristen Rice. Both of them have shepherded this application through the entire process over the past 9 months. It's been a lot of work. Speaking of the application, it has undergone a lot of refinement, and it has evolved into the project that will be heard by the Planning Commission and City Council in the next couple of months. It has stayed true to the community goals that it set out to accomplish many years ago, and I'm happy to share that the proposed project that you will ultimately consider includes 24% affordable housing, resulting in the creation of 39 affordable housing units. The City Council was also busy on the real estate front. In January, the city entered into a development agreement and purchase and sale agreement for 401-403 Hillcrest Drive, which, as the council knows, was a key funding component of the downtown, contributing over $30 million towards that overall effort. Just earlier this month, the City Council recently reached terms with the owner of 1868 Thousand Oaks Boulevard to acquire that property. For circulation purposes, that was a needed property to make the project work. Taken together in tandem, both of these actions help pave the way for the downtown project in terms of financial assets and real estate assets. In March, just last month, we published one of the largest documents I've ever read, the Downtown Project Draft Environmental Impact Report. Completion of that draft EIR was an important transition for this project. It took it from not just this conceptual idea or plan, but rather into formalizing that full application and crossing that regulatory threshold and available for it to be considered during public hearings. We also launched a dedicated project website that is downtowntoaks.org. In the last couple of weeks, we've actually seen a considerable amount of traffic on that newly launched website. Looking forward to the year ahead, we'll be preparing the project for those upcoming hearings I mentioned and taking direction from the council on the selection of a potential partner developer. So after this year's progress, we're not simply continuing the conversation about the downtown, which we certainly will continue that conversation, but we're taking the steps necessary to prepare it and take the major next step to making it a reality. So now I'll pass it on to Alexander South, who will continue the conversation around economic development.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Alexandra South, Director of Strategic Communications and Public Affairs. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the last year in economic development. After a nearly 4-decade career, our previous economic development manager, Haider Al-Awami, sailed off into a well-deserved retirement. Following an extensive recruitment that drew an impressive talent pool, we welcomed Justine Kendall, as Akbar mentioned, to the role, and Justine comes to us from within. Most recently as a senior planner in our community development department. She brings a deep community knowledge from her work on the downtown project and a background in business startup and economic development that makes her the ideal person to lead the city through this new phase of economic transformation. She's currently on family leave, and we look forward to welcoming her fully into the role later this year. In the meantime, the team continues to field exciting new inquiries and guide business owners through the updated general plan to maximize its thoughtful land use designations. Biotech remains a key economic driver in the region, most notably reflected in Amgen's $600 million investment in a new research facility. Adding to that momentum, the successful development hearing for the 16-building Chappelle Industrial Project, known as Conejo Summit, will bring significant economic opportunity to the Rancho Conejo area over the coming years. Seeking economic diversity is always a priority, and this year brought a meaningful opportunity to revamp filming activity in the city. And for more on that, I'll hand things over to Cultural and Community Services Director, Jonathan Surratt.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Our recent actions to modernize the city's filming ordinance has opened a new door to an era of economic opportunity for us. By moving away from a rigid one-size-fits-all model and adopting a concierge-style permitting approach, we are removing barriers that once slowed production and discouraged investment. This streamlined process allows us to respond more quickly and charge only the fees that are necessary and accommodate everything from smaller budget student films to major studio productions. Those investments and improvements do more than just making permitting easier. They actually strengthen Thousand Oaks' position in a competitive, creative economy. When productions choose our city, they bring along with them a multiplier effect. Crews eat in our restaurants. They purchase supplies from our local vendors, they book hotel rooms, and they rely on local transportation and services. Even modest productions can generate meaningful economic activity. The Cultural and Community Services Department has seen momentum across our other cultural divisions, with increased engagement here at the library, heightened activity in our theaters, and with these updated filming policies, we expect similar upward trends in film permitting and activity in our region as well. As California works to reclaim its leadership in film production through state incentives, Thousand Oaks is well positioned to benefit. The explosion of streaming and digital content means demand for filming locations continues to grow, and by presenting ourselves as a film-friendly city with efficient, predictable processes, we can capture a share of that expanding market. Much like our strategic investment in biotech, this is a moment for us to be intentional, leveraging our historic ties to Hollywood in order to build a stronger and more diversified economic future within our community. That concludes my comments, and I believe we're stopping for questions.
Yeah, we're at a juncture. We'll answer any questions you have on those couple of items, if there are any.
Ms.
I can
Gutierrez?
say that,
I skipped you.
oh, sorry,
Going to
Mayor.
Ty.
Was I up? I don't know. I just would say to Akbar, 9 years working on the downtown, minimum. I mean, this goes back to the 1980s when they were having charrettes about what to do, and they thought maybe we should put a motel in there. Yeah, I think our aspirations are a little bigger now, but I am so heartened to think that we're at the request for qualifications and request for proposal stage. That's huge. And there's a lot of interest in what we're doing. A lot of interest. We're going to have a really good crop of people, companies to pick from. And I think they're going to have the wherewithal not only to construct in partnership with us the downtown, but even perhaps expand the footprint to a certain degree, which I think in the long run is very important. Very important. We're starting to see that already. We're seeing that with the Principe piece next door to us is being developed, and there's some other things that are happening that I think will definitely complement our 20 acres. So it's very encouraging and very exciting, and can't wait to see it happen. And all the things we just talked about are all connected. Economic development, the arts and culture, Amgen, the downtown, it's all connected to provide jobs, to provide a place to live, and to provide something to do in the city. And people, look at the things we've had success so far. Tarantula Hill, for example, and some of the cultural spots that we have, they're thriving, and there's so much demand, and we're going to meet that demand and pull this city into the future for generations to come. I want to thank everybody that's been involved with this downtown project. To me, it's the most transformative project I've seen in my 14 years on this council. I think it's been that long. Not to mention my 45 plus years in the community. This is huge for our city. And we're close. We're very close.
Thank you, Councilmember Adam.
I didn't think I had a question there, did I?
It was great. It was great.
While I didn't get a question out of that, but I just want to remind the council we have two very important public hearings to first consider the proposed project. Of course, while we're looking forward to a potential partner developer, we're obviously, at least on the staff side, we're certainly gearing up for having robust discussions at those public hearings. Thank you.
Should we try it again? Yeah. All right, go for it.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Akbar already knows, I love talking about downtown. I think it is very energizing to have such a really meaningful centered project in the city to talk about. And so I just, first and foremost, just brilliant work across the board to everyone. And I think I'm really looking forward to see how it all formalizes and comes to fruition. One of the notable pieces of feedback that we received from the survey was that the downtown showcase our local businesses, and that was the #1 kind of call out that we received. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because I know that we're in early stages, but what can we provide today to reassure and or build those partnerships and collaborative type of energy, because we're going to need a lot of momentum to make this a successful endeavor long term. Can we take now or in the near future to, it was a very strong presence of local business. I've flipped away, but I did note the page number, 24. But it was really telling that this is second to farmers markets, which I also agree. But yeah, just that's the question. Long-winded. Apologies.
Thank you, Councilmember Gutierrez. We have not been shy about how we're going to highlight local business in the community roadshow that myself and my colleagues have been a part of throughout the community. Really, the best example of that in the program is the public market, where we're going to have the opportunity to have probably about a dozen different businesses all co-located in the same space with shared overhead, turnkey operation. I often tell the story of when the former Public Works Director and I traveled up north to Los Altos Hills, who has a public market. And if you're ever in the Silicon Valley area, I encourage anyone to pop in there. We had a chance to speak with the operators, and one of the things that they shared with us was every single operator in there was handpicked, curated, and they also had a presence, a brick and mortar presence in the city already or in the community already. And they were looking to either expand their business, maybe try a fast casual approach, and maybe their brick and mortar business was maybe a sit-down restaurant, or these were kind of micro kitchens that were looking to graduate into something that was more public facing. So that was incredibly, this was in 2024. We were in still the formative stages of the downtown project. And so we took that, and when we took that back to our residents and the community conversations that we were having, that was probably, I'll say it's an informal poll, but you just gauge the feedback you get. That was probably the thing that we got the most warm reception about, is how do we take some of the existing local businesses, small and budding, and put them in a place that they can be showcased. Because I know, we can all think of that business that's tucked away in the corner of town or in an industrial space that we'd love to highlight. And so the public market will be a great place to do that. And speaking of farmers markets, the public plaza area with the Main Street, that was designed with farmers markets in mind. And, it's no secret that we intend for that to be the home of the weekly farmers market one day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And I feel like I know that a lot of that, but I think it's relevant to just continue to make that commitment and to showcase our excitement about that being a reality of this space for community. And you mentioned farmer markets, and I want to just poke at that a little bit and ask, will this also be available, or have we thought about the application process, again, way down the line, but is there likelihood that we could see different outdoor markets and festivals type, because I think we have like our staple Rotary, Moore Park Road gets shut down, and really Rotary's been only the organization to take it on, right? And sadly we didn't have our the parade come back this year, but those type of lifts from organizations, are we already anticipating how we can streamline this process? And are there any environments local, not obviously local, but right now that we could pilot some of that offering for our community organizers?
Yeah, great question. I have met with both Kiwanians and Rotarians separately, of course. They won't meet together. I'm just kidding. About that exact idea, one of the biggest line item costs when putting on the street fairs is the vehicle barricades and security. And so the question for us as staff is, how do we design a space that becomes more turnkey, where the money that would otherwise be going towards vehicle barricades, they can deploy back into the event, making the event even better than it is today. And I think from a service club standpoint, that's incredibly appealing if you can pull off an event at a fraction of the cost. In terms of, can we do it sooner than later? There may be, large venues. We're sitting in one right now where these grounds are used for events of that size. But in addition to this, I want to offer one other thing, and that is, we've talked about the downtown project being multi-phased. The park area will be part of that initial phase, beyond the civil work that needs to be done initially. But the park area is not something we're going to have to wait 10 years to finally realize. It'll be done earlier. So I think that's promising. And as far as the other events are concerned, we had a lot of great suggestions during the community feedback. One of them was a holiday market. I believe it was Rotary put on something of this sort at the Oaks Mall. And that too took a lot of heavy lifting to pull that off. So to the extent that we can create a space that's more turnkey, that service clubs can come in regularly and activate with regularity, that's the goal.
I'm excited to hear that we can activate that space earlier. I think anything that we can pull through from the future to the present is really, again, just going to add to the momentum and community involvement, which is really important. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
So sorry. This is probably for Jonathan, and it's really not. Last year, I was really disheartened, or just bummed that our library and community cultural services wasn't highlighted, and I was reassured thoroughly by all of our team members that it would still be a high priority, and obviously it was. This was the #1 service provided. Maybe one above just by 4%. But for me, this was a really strong showcase of that commitment from a years prior, or a cycle prior of commitment and goals and priorities, and I just wanted to call that out. And I think also just for the community's knowledge, because as I mentioned, it was my first year, and I was like, this is the one that I really wanted to see, that the commitment to our city and the service that we provide staff is fully committed to. But I think this gives us our North Star and all of the other work surrounding that, and our community's quality of life still comes to fruition. So I just wanted to say that because it was something I had to realize as a first timer. Sorry, there wasn't a question in
No,
there.
you're fine. Mr. Engler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question probably for Alex, I think, but I know we have a robust economic development effort going on, especially in our biotech corridor out there in Newberry Park, attracting businesses into town. I'm just curious, from looking forward into the future, the feedback you've been getting from businesses are trying to decide whether to headquarters here in Thousand Oaks. Is there anything that the council can concentrate on that will assist in breaking down any barriers that may be there? I know that in my personal life, a nephew went to work for Amgen, could not find a place to live in Thousand Oaks. And we lost a couple of people to Camarillo that would be great people here. Is that still an issue for attracting business, or are there other ones?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Engler. I'll jump in on these because in my seat I hear it all, I can tell you a number of things. You highlighted housing, and housing is still preeminently the number one thing we hear about, the availability of housing, and a lot of it is availability of quick housing, meaning I need to hire somebody, they're moving from the East Coast, and they need to be here. They might be here for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, but they need a place to rent and get started. Today, there's a lot of those units under construction, which we'll hear in an update subsequently. You will also hear that that we are in need of more places. That's why the downtown links in, and vibrancy is a key challenge. And attracting the young professional class that a lot of our biotech companies are looking to do, they are seeking that, and so we're hearing directly from that, and the council's heard that through the years in business visitations, but it is real and it is acute, and we're hearing that frequently. So there's a lot of excitement about the fact that we're meeting that. And then finally, you'll hear about it again in a moment, is we're updating comprehensively our zoning code, and that is probably the most concrete thing as we move forward to streamline and modernize the approach to how properties are used, how quickly you can do different things on different properties to help businesses get up and running. Just a few meetings ago, you talked about the extension of the project that's going to bring a brine line down Rancho Conejo Boulevard. That is a very significant potential thing, not just for Amgen as our largest employer, but for all the biotech companies along that corridor that may leverage that industrial need. And then partnering with purveyors to be able to do that at no net expense to our ratepayers. Those are the types of things that we're continuing to pursue and focus on, and to be as adept and nimble to the needs of small business along the way.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, just getting back to that public market concept, it's such a great gathering spot for the public. It really is. There's one in Santa Barbara and Victoria. Many of you have been there, and it is so vibrant and so lively and so much fun because there's so much choice, you know, and it's an incubator time for small businesses because the cost is shared, and some of them make it, some of them don't, but there's a turnover, so you're always getting these cutting-edge establishments in there. So you go in, you get somebody wants Mexican food, somebody wants Thai food, somebody wants pizza, somebody wants to go to Shaloub's, then you all meet in the middle and you eat, and then you go get some ice cream, and then you watch the Dodgers. You're there for a couple hours, you know, and maybe more. So it's just, that's going to be a real highlight, I think, to our downtown. Looking forward to that.
All right, that's all from us.
Okay. Next up, we are going to hear on affordable and workforce housing, followed by our general plan update item. Affordable and workforce.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Staff continues to make meaningful progress in advancing housing production through active collaboration and close coordination with property owners and applicants to keep projects moving forward. I'm going to start tonight by talking about a few projects that council has heard over the years that are in the pipeline and moving forward. First, we'll begin with the Timber School site. It's being branded as the Sanctuary now. It consists of 218 units, 26 in an affordable category with an 120-room hotel. Currently, the hotel is slated to be a residence inn, with the residential portion of the project currently under construction. The Timber School building itself will initially be used as a leasing office, and that'll eventually transition into a community space that various organizations in the community can use, or obviously residents that live on site. The hotel itself is currently in plan check. We'll move to 325 Hampshire Road, the former Kmart site, which is being branded as T.O. Ranch. That consists of 420 apartment units, 54 in an affordable category, and it contains roughly 15,000 square feet of commercial. Grading is nearing completion on that site. You may recall it started quite some time ago. Permits have been issued for the two mixed-use buildings in the front of the site, and that'll be followed closely by the townhome-style apartments located in the rear, which is approaching permit issuance. It's getting very close. From there, we'll move to what was once an Amgen parcel at 2150 Hillcrest. It consists of 333 units, 33 in an affordable category, along with 5,300 square feet of commercial. Building permits themselves are close to issuance. The applicant is finalizing required condition compliance, and they simply need to pay fees in order for those permits to be issued. So it looks as if that project permit issuance is imminent. We'll move from there to, I think it was once called the Pumpkin Patch Lot. 500 TOB. It consists of 328 apartments, 44 in an affordable category, with 7,500 square feet of commercial. The applicant is currently working their way through the underground utility process, which was a core piece of that project. And they're also in the middle of second plan check for the structures themselves. So progress is being made on that front as well. The Kennedy Wilson site, located at 1 Baxter Way, it consists of 240 units with 34 in an affordable category. The applicant is currently in the process of realigning the project with near full capacity of the existing office space on site. They're well over 80% in terms of occupancy today. They're pivoting not only just because of market conditions, but also to increase the viability of the project. As some of you may recall, when that went through the entitlement process, the existing office piece was only about 20% occupied. So that changed the calculus for the project that they moved forward with. Now seeing increased vitality on the site, they're going to pivot to try to incorporate that a little bit more. So there's more to come from them in the near future. 88 Long Court is one of our more boutique, smaller projects with 73 units of apartments, 8 in an affordable category. That property owner is still pursuing the project and has recently indicated that they'll be seeking a development agreement amendment, primarily to add 8 additional units. And to do that, they'll need to modify the building design a bit. So that's something that staff has been in communication with them about, and hopefully we'll get to usher them through the entitlement process. That takes us to our final project of note, which is Chappelle Apartments. It's 26 units, 3 in an affordable category. You may remember this is an extension of an existing apartment project near our biotech sector. They're still moving forward with the development. They recently merged some lots in order to help facilitate development. Their construction drawings are in final plan check, so there's significant progress on that front. A development agreement amendment is necessary to extend the entitlement terms and to allow for the construction phase of the project. It's been entitled for a while, so they're approaching life expectancy. So they'll be coming forward to amend that development agreement in order to move forward. Another key example of our continued partnership is with People Self-Help Housing. They have a 78-unit affordable for-sale townhome project located on the corner of Hillcrest Drive and Herbs Road. Since project approval, the developer has successfully secured over $12 million in funding and is actively pursuing additional sources to close their funding gap. Staff has remained closely engaged throughout the process to help them navigate the challenges and maintain momentum in moving that project forward. Building on that work and City Council's direction, staff will also evaluate additional tools to improve project feasibility, including citywide impact fee waivers for 100% affordable for-sale projects. This type of home ownership opportunities is amongst the most challenging to deliver, but it remains a critical need in our community. Together, these efforts reflect a proactive and sustained community by staff to implement council's housing goals, expand access to affordable home ownership in our community, and deliver meaningful results to our residents. Shifting gears a little bit towards the general plan, we're continuing to make significant progress in implementing the 2045 general plan with a strong focus on turning your policy into real ground results. The zoning code and sign code update are both well underway. We're currently in phase 3 of drafting the zoning code. Following completion of that initiation and the technical phase, building on the public outreach conducted last year and including community workshops to check in with both the Planning Commission and City Council, staff is now working closely with our consultant to actually draft the draft zoning code, which we anticipate releasing later this year for review and comment by the public as well as the City Council. At the same time, staff is taking a proactive approach to implementation of the new land use regulations. In particular, the mixed use designation has generated significant interest throughout the community. Staff has met directly with numerous property owners to help them understand the new standards and opportunities that they create. We're actively processing development applications that received interest in key development sites, including the Oaks Mall, Jan's Marketplace, the former drive-in site in Newberry Park, as well as up and down Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Currently, we have an application for a 147-unit single-family project located near the Oaks Mall, near that former Black Angus site. Staff is also meeting regularly with the ownership of the Oaks Mall as we're working to develop a specific plan for that site to help it maximize its full potential. In addition, staff is currently monitoring housing production to ensure continued progress towards housing element compliance. As a result of our efforts, the city has approximately 2,000 units in the pipeline, including 263 in an affordable category. In 2025, 27 building permits were issued in a low and very low affordable category. These were the first units that actually count towards our RHNA cycle. Permits have also recently been issued for projects at 325 Hampshire, which I previously mentioned, as well as the Sanctuary, which is the Timber School site. And in the coming year, we anticipate at least another 750 market rate units with roughly 100 in an affordable category. So to reiterate, based on the activity that we're currently seeing in the community from the fully entitled projects for the work that's already been done by council and developers, we anticipate 750 more units, new units, as well as almost 100 in the affordable category. That's significant progress towards the vision that council laid out and also achieving our arena cycle goals. Taken together, this work reflects a highly coordinated and sustained effort by the Community Development Department staff. We have some of their leadership here tonight. Not only to plan for growth, but to actively facilitate it, ensure the city is well positioned to deliver housing and investment for constituents that realize this council's visions and goals.
Thank you, Kelvin. Because there's a lot in this area, we're going to pause after this one, and then we're going to take our final remaining items through to the end, and then you'll have a chance to answer or ask questions about those. I do want to acknowledge Kelvin and the community development leadership staff, because not only is the volume through the roof, but they took feedback from this council last year about wanting to do everything we could to cajole and move folks forward, and they proactively went out and tracked down all these property owners. That's not their general responsibility, but they went out and knocked on their doors, they set up meetings, and they proactively prodded folks to move forward and got answers to questions, found out where there were impediments, made connections when they needed to make them, and you see the results of that as we've moved forward this year with a lot more activity that wasn't the case as we sat together last year. Happy to answer questions.
Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 points of fact. I can't type fast enough, so I was trying to write down everything you were saying. You mentioned there are currently about 2,000 units in the pipeline.
Correct.
And what number of those are affordable? I missed that. Sorry.
Approximately 263.
Great, so more than 10%. And then you mentioned additionally that there are about 750 more units coming. And I'm sorry, again, I missed it. Is it 100 or 150 of those? Or
Roughly 100 of those will be in an affordable category.
Excellent. I want to just add my kudos to what Mr. Powers was saying about, I realize we had a really challenging environment for building between the lending environment, interest rates being very high, insurance is always a challenge. I think you and your staff did really excellent work in going back to developers and saying, hey, we've got this big backlog, what can we do to move this along? And it really shows. I mean, there was a more than 4 times increase year over year in building starts last year. And that's, you and your team did that. So thank you.
Mr. Adams.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think Calvin would agree that this is our general plan at work.
Absolutely.
It took us 4 years to get it down. I remember the night we voted on it. And we said, we want to see housing along the 101 corridor. And that's exactly where it's going. From Westlake out to Wendy. Not in the neighborhoods, not in the open space, but along the 101 corridor. And those units, on the surface, it may sound like a lot, but it's less than 5% of our existing housing stock. I think we have about 50,000 units in the city, more or less. And it's so needed. I mean, the market rate, of course, and the affordable even more. So, and then you think what was there. Abandoned office buildings, cracked, weed-ridden parking lots, dilapidated Kmarts. I mean, what? Black Angus. And Black Angus. Well, one of these days that'll be done too. But the benefit we're providing the community is, I think, beyond measure. Our community needs housing, and when I consider what was there and what we're getting now, it's just such a huge step forward. And appreciate, that was a very good report. I appreciate that, Kelvin. I think you summed it up beautifully, so thank you.
Mr. Engler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, great report. Thanks, Kelvin, and great progress. When again, looking back a couple of years, these have always been in the pipeline. I mean, I can go back to, I think, 2016, 15, when some of these sites were identified as what was then called opportunity sites, to now see the fruition of housing coming to those sites is really heartening. So thanks for all your hard work. One other aspect that you didn't mention tonight was ADUs and that those smaller construction projects that are providing some housing. How are we doing in the ADU world?
In the ADU world, we're progressing. As you may recall, we've been to council to amend our ordinances to comply with current regulations at the state level. Because of that, we pivoted away from accepting planning applications to try to move directly to a building plan check submittal process. As part of that process, we generated a checklist that includes all of the pertinent needs that various departments and agencies would need to move that forward, from Public Works to Ventura County Fire, to our building division, to our planning division, to have that wholly accessible on the ADU section of the community development website. This year, since February, we've issued 25 permits for ADUs. So it still remains one of our high volume workload areas, but they're progressing. People are taking advantage of the opportunities that have been provided by recent legislation in that area.
Thank you.
I think that's all the questions. The one thing I just want to highlight, the Black Angus site, how many single family homes? 120?
147.
140, that sounds good. I like the single family. There we go. All right, thank you, Calvin. That was a great report.
Thank you.
Mr. Powers.
Thank you. We're going to move next to fiscal sustainability with Jamie.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm going to provide brief highlights of the city's fiscal sustainability efforts over the past year. Last June, City Council adopted the city's 2-year balanced budget, which went into effect in July, providing significant funding to work on current City Council priorities, provide city services, and invest in the community. The city received budget awards from both the Government Finance Officers Association and the California Society of Municipal Officers. This was the city's first time doing a fully digital budget book, and we received comments from our award reviewers that this was the best digital budget book that they had ever reviewed. Labor negotiations were completed and contracts executed, including preparation of the city's first class and comp study in over 20 years. The first citywide comprehensive user fee study in over 10 years was also completed, and adopted user fees went into effect last July. In addition, the user fees document was updated and streamlined to make it simpler and easier for the public to use. Our water and wastewater rate studies were completed in fall 2025, with water rates effective this past January, and wastewater is going to be effective this July. The city also supported a federal bill on housing, H.R. 3526, the First Time Home Buyers Act, and the state bond bill, AB 736, Affordable Housing Bond, in order to advocate for and support for additional federal and state funding for affordable housing. The city continues to remain in a strong financial position and arguably is one of the most fiscally sound cities in the state. With that, I will turn it over to Anthony Moore, our new Chief Technology Officer.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Taylor and council members. With the formation of our new Information Technology Department, I'm honored to serve as the city's first Chief Technology Officer. Our Deputy CTO, Augie Preciado, recently started last week, actually, on April 20th. And we're actively recruiting several key management positions. It's truly an exciting time for the city of Thousand Oaks. Since starting in February, I've been focused on advancing the goals in our IT strategic plan, and I'm pleased to share several highlights from the past year. First, we made significant progress on our mobility initiative by deploying 50 laptops across the organization. In addition, we're in the process of migrating several key systems from on-premises infrastructure to the cloud. These efforts are modernizing how we work by giving employees the flexibility to be productive both in and out of the office, while strengthening our cybersecurity posture and reducing the city's overall risk. We've enhanced our enterprise permitting and licensing system, Tyler Technologies InterGov, by launching express and combo permits. We're currently testing trade permits. In partnership with Tyler Technologies, we are also beginning an investment assessment that will give us a clear roadmap to improve system efficiency, accountability, and return on investment. This is part of an ongoing continuous improvement effort, and the system will continue to evolve as we refine and expand its capabilities. These investments streamline routine approvals, strengthen customer service, and reduce processing time for residents and businesses. Our GIS team continues to provide exceptional service while expanding data transparency for both the staff and the public. The redesigned development activity and capital improvement dashboards have greatly improved our customer experience and public insight into city projects. We also achieved ADA compliance across our public-facing GIS applications, making these tools accessible to everyone. By placing GIS tools directly in the hands of subject matter experts, we're fostering a culture of data autonomy and transparency, improving asset maintenance, and strengthening the record keeping needed to protect the city. Finally, I want to highlight the tremendous opportunities ahead in data analytics and artificial intelligence. Thousand Oaks is a data-rich environment with systems such as ERP, EPL, Enterprise Permitting and Licensing, GIS, and Laserfiche. Our goal is to unlock the value of this data, whether through enhanced reporting or responsible use of AI. We recently implemented GovAI, a secure artificial intelligence platform that allows employees to leverage AI tools with confidence, knowing that city data remains private and is not used to train any public AI systems. I look forward to the transformative opportunities ahead as we continue improving how we use data to support staff efficiency and better serve our residents. So that's it for me, and I'm going to turn over to our Deputy Public Works Director, Ted Gerber.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ted Gerber, Deputy Public Works Director. The Public Works team, supported by numerous departments and organizations across the city, are looking forward in the coming year to continuing the implementation of the ambitious CEAP, the Climate and Environmental Action Plan, in ways that will best serve our community and the city. This year, our CEAP accomplishments include the achievement of goals across emissions reduction, energy resiliency, electric vehicle implementation, and waste diversion and minimization, in particular, edible food recovery. The city's recently completed comprehensive active transportation plan defines and furthers the city's ongoing commitments to becoming a greener, more pedestrian and bicycle-friendly community, as well as reducing vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions. The Rancho Conejo Biotech Area Sidewalk was an ATP project that was completed earlier this year, transforming areas adjacent to Rancho Conejo Boulevard into a more pedestrian-friendly zone, and included new streetlights and rectangular rapid flashing beacon warning systems. The transportation sector remains the leading source of emissions impacting the local community. Therefore, we look forward to seeking grant funding to help make these ATP project concepts a reality for our residents and businesses. Further on emissions reduction, city staff continue to encourage the community's transition away from gas-powered lawn equipment. To this end, the city conducted an extensive public outreach campaign to promote the Ventura County Air Pollution Control District's electric leaf blower rebate program. As a result of our outreach and with the help of a city-hosted event, a total of 170 city residents and 10 city commercial landscapers have already taken advantage of the incentive. In fact, 2/3 of all the resident rebates have been distributed through Ventura County or to the city of Thousand Oaks. In the area of energy resource resiliency, efficiency, and conservation, Our team completed multiple projects at the Hill Canyon Treatment Plant, including upgrading the cogeneration facility, which provides renewable energy sourced from the plant's wastewater biogas. The upgrade reduced energy costs, increases energy conservation and energy independence at the plant, while also enhancing process optimization. This reusable biogas production is further increased by the recent improvements at the plant's fats, oils, and grease receiving station. This past year, our team and the City Council renewed the city's Energy Information System Maintenance and Monitoring Agreement with SiteLogic IQ, while also expanding the system's capabilities by integrating additional solar facility data. Public Works staff also improved energy management for municipal operations by working with the Facilities Division to resolve HVAC scheduling issues, supporting potential no-cost water heater replacement opportunities through SoCalRen, and identifying and helping correct multiple utility billing and meter issues to reduce unnecessary energy costs. Correction of electricity billing at the Hill Canyon Treatment Plant resulted in a credit of over $75,000 from Southern California Edison. In addition, as I mentioned earlier this evening in the Emergency Preparedness and Wildlife Mitigation Priority, last month the City Council approved design-build agreements for 2 FEMA grant-funded power backup projects, one at Lang Ranch Pump Station and the other at the city's mission-critical MSC. The effort at the Municipal Service Center is the flagship project of a portfolio of electric vehicle implementations. The MSC electrification projects, which are currently in design, will install nearly 100 Level 2 and Level 3 electric vehicle charge ports. This, along with battery backup, generators, solar array interconnection, and a microgrid for charger and builder resiliency. All this to support electrification across our city fleet and transit bus services. And this will help boost the city's emergency response capabilities. Last month, Council approved the award of the city's SB 1383 Cal Recycle Local Assistance Grant to Adelante Comunidad Conejo to fund a food recovery hub at the 4,000 square foot former school district nutrition kitchen facility. Our city team developed this food recovery hub concept over the last year, ultimately soliciting a competitive proposal process where Adelante was the selected grant recipient organization. The new facility provides capacity for a 10-fold expansion of recovered food storage from Adelante's current monthly distribution to 300 households. And the facility will be fully operational in October. This effort is in parallel to the additional food storage capacity the city is implementing through a temporary trailer plug-in parking agreement completed with safe passages earlier this year. Also earlier this month, many community members joined us to celebrate Arbor Earth Day at the Thousand Oaks Community Center, which offered a family-friendly day featuring electric vehicles, activities, vendors, raffles, and a plant and compost giveaway. Numerous environmental organizations hosted booths, EV owners shared firsthand experience, and Athens Services provided recycling and organics guidance with a compost giveaway. This event also included a bicycle safety course and a used bike donation drive supporting underserved youth, in addition to a Girl Scout tree planting later that day. This celebration also followed another Youth Commission tree planting in March. We expect that fiscal year 26-27 will bring another exciting year of advancement in the city's sustainability objectives, and we're excited to provide updates on these projects mentioned in the coming months. With that, I'll pass this to Public Works Director Nader Haydari.
Thank you, Ted, and good evening, council members. Your Public Works Department continues to make improving and maintaining our critical city infrastructure a top priority in Thousand Oaks. The city maintains over $2 billion of public infrastructure, and with the council's ongoing support, we've been able to advance our goals, which are to engineer and construct new solutions to meet the ever-evolving needs of the community, while still making sure that we're maintaining the city's current assets in good working condition. The 2026 pavement overlay and slurry project is currently underway, which is one of the largest city projects active right now. with an investment of nearly $18 million in rehabilitating and improving over 50 miles of roadway across the city to make sure they may remain in the very good category. We also continue to implement our pavement management program that projects our anticipated needs going forward in the future and makes sure we're putting the right pavement treatment in the right location at the right time to extend our dollars as far as possible. We've also continued our extensive sidewalk grinding and repair program. On that end, we are nearly complete with a 2026 citywide concrete replacement project, which is the largest effort to date of the city, more than double of any previous project we've done to repair and improve the sidewalks. This year, we're doing over 15,000 square feet of sidewalk replacement, 5,000 square feet of driveways, and almost 2,000 feet of curb and gutter replacement. These improvements directly help enhance walkability and accessibility for our residents. As Ted mentioned just previously, the city recently completed the active transportation plan, and that's helping us outline short-term and long-term projects that will help close the gaps on the city's bicycle network and pedestrian recommendations to help maximize connectivity and accessibility across the city. Also on the transportation front, we've launched a new transit app that allows users to book dial-a-ride trips from their mobile phones without even having to make a phone call, and a sixth route on the fixed route buses on TO Transit to help improve rider experience and reduce delays and cut down on wait times. We're focusing on many other aspects of our city's critical infrastructure portfolio. Major improvements have been completed at the Hill Canyon Treatment Plant and on our critical wastewater network that carries wastewater from the city to Hill Canyon across the canyons. The 1.5 mile long Thousand Oaks Boulevard median landscaping project was recently completed, revitalizing the landscaping on one of the city's most prominent medians from the post office and auto mall extending past the North Ranch Mall, Promenade, Westlake High School, and all the way out to the eastern city limits. This project replaced old pine and eucalyptus trees with 37 new oak trees, decorative drought-resistant shrubs and ground cover, and the latest in low water use irrigation systems. We're going to be following that project with another similar project on Westlake Boulevard next year and Hampshire Road to follow thereafter. The department has also been heavily focused on emergency and resiliency with significant improvements to our traffic signals, as we've discussed earlier tonight, and water reservoirs and pump stations. To help further that, we've constructed 2 flood mitigation protection systems on Westlake Boulevard and Herbs Road, 2 of our busiest roadways, to make sure we are protecting against future mud and debris flows onto those roadways. And we replaced the aging storm drain system at the corner of Ventura Park Road and Lynn Road. Your Public Works Department is ready to respond 24/7 to whatever emergency response support is needed to serve the community. And our team truly enjoys serving the residents of Thousand Oaks to make the city the best place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Great updates. For that final swath there, before we move to the community attitude survey, any questions for everybody?
Mr. Engler.
I would like to compliment.
Wait.
What happened?
Engler's going first.
Oh, my goodness. It's hard to see because we're in a line here.
Thank you, Councilmember Adam, thank you. First off, this whole area of public works and all the work that goes on behind the scenes, I mentioned it earlier, it really makes our job up here easy. Easier, I should say. It's never easy. But the fact that our public works people are on the job and doing such a great, their performance is so good that our streets are in great shape, our water systems work, our sewage systems work. That takes a lot off the plate for complaints coming from our citizens. And because of the hard work that they are doing, it's making our city what it is. So thank you for that. In terms of Anthony in IT, been going to League of Cities events here quite a bit over the last few years. AI, of course, is a big topic of conversation in various areas. I'm glad to see we're going to the GovAI platform type look at things to keep the our information in-house and not to add it to the plethora of things that are out in the real world. I'm also glad to see that we're giving those tools and making them available to our employees to enhance their efforts and making their work more effective. How are we going to bring that same type of information and availability to our public through, some kind of bots or anything that we can have active for citizens who want to determine, say, how to make a proper application for building or any other information that they'd like to get from our city?
Well, I think that some of the systems that we have, there's that potential there. You probably heard of things like chat bots and functionality like that. That there's certainly potential there, but the real key to that is you've really got to have the data in-house to really be accurate and clean before you want to make sure that you present things like that to the public. I've been in situations before where you implement chat bots and things like that to the public or to residents, or I was at a college before, and if the internal data isn't really on point and accurate, then it can present issues. So that's something that we're working on, and that's something that I could talk to you about at some point. 'Cause I'm excited about that. That's kind of stuff that really gets me excited to talk about. But really, making the data in-house really clean, looking at consolidating the data in-house. I could probably talk about this forever, but there's functionality in-house, things like, if you ever heard of like data lakes, data lake houses, data warehouses, where you kind of compile data, and then you kind of pile AI on top of that, and then reporting functionality. So it's something that definitely down the road that we can look into. And then, like I said, systems that we currently have, they do have that availability. So that's something that definitely, I think, down the road, that we'll be working on and look into. I'm really excited that I'll be working and building a staff with some key positions, like in terms of data analytics, data architecture, that I can have really working and focusing on areas like that. So I'm probably going to spend the next 8 months to a year really building the team and adding some of those key strategic positions.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's like I say, I'm real happy to see these tools becoming available in-house for our employees. I know that people who I've talked to, they want to put a sign on their business, and they don't know how to get into the code to find out what is allowed. And so that public-facing ability is also something I would encourage you to really bring forward as quickly as possible. And I realize there's a lot of back room stuff that needs to be done, but that's an important part of it too.
Love that suggestion, love that idea.
And what I might add to that is, in the process of being involved in an updated comprehensive zoning code update, which has been long overdue because our general plan was long overdue, that brand new code is going to present a ripe opportunity for Anthony and his team to collaborate with folks to develop exactly those things. The other big thing we talk about a lot as an executive team is ensuring that data accuracy across our organization, but also ensuring in a regulatory environment that's changing almost minute to minute. Let's think if we tried to build something regarding ADUs, we would have to be updating that with a frequency because the ADU legislation is updating frequently. And if we provide misinformation and folks go out and build something around those parameters, that's a problem on our end. So we're really focused on the accuracy of the pieces. The model deployment will actually probably be the easy part on the other side of the equation.
Hey, Anthony, hang on 1 second if you don't. I'm going to. Okay. Do you mind while he's here? I'll just save him the trip. So, government AI is like a AI platform that the government runs or that the government can use, or what's up with this?
So
then my next question is it any good?
Yeah, so let me explain. So there are many different AI platforms, right? You probably heard of ChatGPT.
We're using Claude right now.
So, okay, Claude's one, Copilot.
Yeah.
There are numerous different models out there. So GovAI is a model that's really being adopted right now by government agencies. And the real reason is because it keeps the data within your tenant. So what that means is it keeps the data within the city of Thousand Oaks. So what typically would happen is you would hop on like a free tool like a ChatGPT or any of the free versions of these tools. And any data you input, any data you upload, anything you're doing, that data is used to train the model, right? Because the real power of AI is in the data. And the more data you have, the more data you use to train the model, the more you can get out of an AI system. So the great thing about GovAI and why it's getting a lot of traction is because it's secure. Because we have a lot of data that we keep within the city of Thousand Oaks that's private. We have information on employees, could be residents, whatever it is, that's not data we want getting out to the public. So when we use a tool like GovAI, it keeps all the data that we're using, the searches that we're doing, the data that we're uploading, it keeps it private and it doesn't use it to train that public model, if it makes sense. So that's kind of like the beauty of a tool like GovAI.
Okay.
And it actually uses, on its back end, not to get too technical, uses the GBT infrastructure on the back end for its search and capability.
The branding on that is spot on, huh?
Yeah, well, so, and it's essentially white labeled
I got it.
ChatGPT,
Yeah.
right? With restrictions that are explicitly structured for government. They intend to add Claude later in the calendar year. We're one of the earlier adopters of the platform and going through that, but it has all the capabilities that we need and the security that we need to ensure that we're working within the confines of our government AI policy.
All right, super cool.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I'd be
Anthony.
happy at some point if you want to. I love talking about this. If you
We'll
want to talk about it, you want to
we'll
look at
hang
it.
out. We won't we won't waste everybody's time with that one. You and I will geek out though. Mrs. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Thank you to Anthony and your leadership around this space first. I also like to echo Councilmember Engler's sentiment around empowering and acknowledging this is how work is getting done now and how efficiency is being built out in workflows. So I'm happy to see us step into and embrace in a very secure and private kind of way. So thank you for that. I forget, it may have been, oh my gosh, I can't remember now and I apologize, but there was a conversation or an update around county rebates being issued mostly in Thousand Oaks around, I think it was leaf blowers, and it was like between residents and even some like operators, right? So like our landscape operators. I really appreciate that call out because it really showcases the partnership not only with the city and the county, but the city and the community. So really great work, and I'm just encouraged by that and how community showed up in that way. But secondarily, I wondered if there were any opportunities to further that. To just further that success through like our business office where we can identify local operators and, an email from the city directly, and maybe you've already done this, I don't doubt it, but it carries more weight and it's more recognizable. And is that how we generated all of this lovely success? Maybe that's the direction.
So when you'll recall when council took up this item in discussion, your guidance to us was you wanted to try to seek compliance through encouraging the transition rather than forcing the transition. And so in doing so, we knew there was a pot of money at the county, so we aggressively went after marketing that money. Alex and her team collaborating with the sustainability team and public works team to get the word out across spectrum. And like you heard, a full two-thirds of the rebates that were issued came for our residents, and that is a tremendous success. We're hoping that pool of money is going to be brought forward again, and that we will continue those efforts, because landscape companies with business licenses, individuals that are looking to do that, the city's team has made the shift and the transition as well. So we want to continue to build on that success in the year ahead.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I think next up is the survey.
Yeah, we're going to transition. Oh, Kelvin, you had a quick clarification point in addition. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Hey, I just wanted to clarify one of the data points I shared with council a short time ago. The Toll Brothers is developing the drive-in site in Newberry Park. That's 147 units. That's a for-sale product. The Black Angus site is actually in its early iterations. It's a rental product with roughly 203 units right now, of which about 21 would be an affordable category. So I did just want to make that clarification. Previously, I think I mentioned for sale at the Black Angus site. It is a rental product.
That makes more sense.
It absolutely does.
Put single family in the middle of everything. Thanks, Kelvin.
Okay, as we transition slide decks here to our community attitude survey, I just want to confirm that Dr. McClarney is on the line.
I am on the line. You got me?
He's on the line, and you've got your screen share there, so we will hand it over to you, sir.
Okay, we're all good. You can see the blue screen on your end?
We can see it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'm Tim McClarney. I'm the president of True North Research, and we are a firm that for 25 years now has specialized in working with cities and other types of public agencies and using surveys to help them develop a statistically reliable understanding of the communities and the customers that they serve. To date, my business partner and I, working as a two-person team, have designed and conducted over 1,500 research studies for public agencies, and about 500 surveys that are like the type of survey we're going to be talking about tonight, a community opinion survey regarding city services. I mention this experience mainly because as I go through tonight's presentation, I'll probably make some comments about how the results we're seeing here in Thousand Oaks compare to what we typically see when we're doing this type of work around the state. And I just want you to have a sense from the experience base from which I'd be speaking. I also have had the privilege of working with the city for about 2 decades on your community surveys. And so you'll see there are some slides in this presentation that not only show the results of where we are today in 2026, but how things have sort of moved over time. As I go through the presentation, I welcome questions from council along the way or at the end, whichever is your preference. Okay, so before we jump in and talk about the results, helpful to take a quick moment to review the methodology. We're using the same methodology here that we used in the 2023 community survey, as well as we normally use when we're working on these types of community opinion surveys. We start out with what's called a stratified random sample of households. So we stratify the community geographically to make sure that we're pulling the correct proportions on a geographic basis. You randomly select households. Once you've done that, you can append contact information, email, phone numbers, names to those records. Doing this and stratifying in that way, and then watching as data collection proceeds, the balance of the sample ensures that at the end of this process, we have a balanced representative sample of adult residents in the community. Once we pulled our sample, we reach out using 3 recruiting methods: email, text, and telephone. Everything's PIN protected so that only those individuals that are randomly selected and receive an invitation can participate. They can complete it one time only. That protects the integrity of the study. They have the option of participating either online or by telephone, whichever is their preference, as well as in English and Spanish. Data collection was conducted for this phase of it, was conducted in January of this year. And we were contracted to do 400 completed interviews as part of this main sample. I always have to sort of make some estimates about what I think the productivity is going to be and the participation rate, and I tend to err a bit on the conservative side, but usually not this much. We're walking back in the door with over 1,000 completed interviews as part of this main sample. And with a sample that large selected at random, you have an overall margin of error due to sampling of plus or minus 3% at the 95% confidence level. And what that means is we can be 95% confident that the results I'll share with you tonight are within 3% of what we would have found had we spoken with all of your adult residents. Okay, so on to the results. We like to open up the survey with some high-level questions before we get into the details. The first of those was overall, how would they rate the quality of life in the city of Thousand Oaks on this scale of excellent, good, fair, poor, or very poor? Far left over there is the results for 2026. You can see that in this most recent survey. We have 91% of respondents rate the overall quality of life in the community as excellent or good. That is similar to where we were in 2023. I can tell you that in today's environment, again, I get to ask this question for a lot of cities. Anytime you're operating in the 90+ percentile in terms of overall quality of life, that's a really good score. I could tell you it ranges. I have several cities that I've worked with where this number is down in the 40s. So you should be proud of a number like 91%. You can also see, though, to the right that over time, going back to 2009, that the percent who rate the quality of life in the city as excellent is sort of tapered down. This is not a pattern that's unique to Thousand Oaks. It's actually a pattern that we commonly see in cities, and it has a lot to do with kind of the world we live in, right? And if you think back to 2009 and everything that's happened since that point in terms of, you know, the availability and affordability of housing, increased cost of living pressures, rising rents, you have a period there where homelessness was pretty pronounced. We had the pandemic, right? And certainly over this period of time, our politics have gotten more partisan and more bitter. And all of this sort of contributes to a general sort of environment where, you know, people, although still positive about the quality of life, might see some room for improvement, in which case they're, you know, opting for saying it's good as opposed to excellent in some cases. After that initial question, we went on to ask folks if the city government could change one thing to make Thousand Oaks a better place to live now and in the future, what change would you like to see? This question is presented in an open-ended manner, meaning we don't present them with the list of options you see there on the slide and say, pick one of these. They get to just tell us in their own words what comes to mind. We then go back, look at those verbatim responses and group them into the categories that you see here. And so you can see at the very top of the list, the number one answer to this question was, not sure, I can't think of anything. In other words, they can't think of a change that they'd like to make to the city. That was 18% said that. If you go down about 6 slots, 6 slots, you also see no changes are needed, everything is fine. So this is someone who says, you know, when you ask what change you'd like, they say specifically, I don't want to change, right? I want to keep it the way it is. You add those two up, that's about 1 out of 4. It's a quarter of every respondent says, you know, I don't know of a change that comes to mind, or I really don't want any changes. That's a really strong response because, you know, you're essentially handing them a soapbox and saying, stand up on that soapbox and tell us one thing we can do to make the community better, and they're kind of stuck for an answer. Among the specific responses beyond that, you see limiting growth to preserving open spaces at 12%, reducing traffic congestion at 10%, providing more affordable housing at 9%, and addressing homeless issues at 8%. What's interesting is I don't have the figure for this, but if you go back to the survey from 2023, the last time we did this, the number one answer in the survey of the change they'd like to see was not, I can't think of anything, it was homelessness. You had 20% of people rate that issue as the one thing they'd really like the city to address. And today that has dropped down to less than 8%. We've heard a lot earlier in this meeting about your Thrive Navigation Center. I know the council has taken, you know, deliberate action to address the homelessness issue in the community over the last few years. And you heard objective criteria earlier about all the successes of that center. We're also seeing it in this, what is sort of a perception or subjective measure from your residents, right? The issue of homelessness is nowhere near as salient today as it was 3 years ago, and it's a reflection of the action that you've taken as a city. After that, we get to this slide, which is the answers to the question, generally speaking, are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the job the City of Thousand Oaks is doing to provide city services? Because we are asking them to comment on the city's performance overall, right? We're not zeroing in on streets and roads or public safety. This can be thought of as an overall performance rating for the city. You can see here in 2026, we had 82% of respondents say that they were satisfied with the city's overall performance. You've got about 11% dissatisfied and the rest unsure. There's a bit of a tick up. We went up about 2 points in satisfaction between 2023 and 2026. There was a statistically significant decline in the percentage who said somewhat dissatisfied. Really good numbers. I can tell you again, in today's climate, anytime you're operating in the 80s, you're in the top tier, right? It doesn't get much higher than the 80% bracket. And when you look at your numbers from 2026, what they tell you is that for every one dissatisfied resident, you have 8 satisfied residents. So that's a really good ratio as well. So that last slide was about the city's overall performance. At this point in the poll, we now drill down into all the specific service areas you see on this slide. And we basically ask the same question. Are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the city's efforts to provide this service? They're asked in a random order, but we've sorted them from high to low here based on the combined percentage of folks who said either very or somewhat satisfied. You can see for the vast majority of the services we tested here, you've got better than 80% of respondents saying that they are satisfied with the city's efforts in that area, with library service at the top of the list, fire protection, EMS, maintaining park areas, maintaining public landscape areas, et cetera. When you get down to the very bottom of the list, you can see they're at the bottom, facilitating development of affordable housing, providing housing, shelter for homeless. You know, the thing about the things that tend to land up at the bottom, and obviously managing traffic congestion right there, where the satisfaction ratings are lower, what you tend to find is the things that wind up clustering at the bottom here are things that the city doesn't have total control over, right? You know, facilitating the development of affordable housing. You know, cities aren't in the business of building affordable housing, right? There's things you can do to facilitate it and encourage it, but you're typically not buying land and developing properties yourselves, right? And so it's not totally within your control. Same thing with managing traffic congestion. There's certain things you can do to try and help this along, but there's limits, right? And then finally, on the housing and shelter for the homeless, as we saw on that last slide, the issue has gone down a lot, right? And I'll show you on the next slide that residents recognize this in the community, and they are giving the city props for making improvements there. But it's one of those issues that you've made a lot of progress on, but it's also one of those issues that still, you know, residents see opportunities for further progress. So this next slide is really important. What it does is it shows the percentage change in satisfaction between the 2023 survey results and the current 2026 survey results, as well as which of these changes are statistically significant, meaning that we can be confident that they reflect an actual change in underlying satisfaction in the community, as opposed to being due to chance associated with independent random sampling. And as you look at the slide, what you can see is that, and by the way, positive differences in satisfaction are shown in green, negatives are in red, and if an item has this dagger or cross symbol next to it, that means that is a statistically significant change between 2023 and 2026. And what is striking is when you look at this slide, there are 11 statistically significant changes in satisfaction between 2023 and 2026. Every single one of them is in the positive direction, right? And you want to sort of think about that for a second, because we do this a lot for cities, and typically you're going to get some significant differences that are in the positive direction, but you're also going to get some significant changes that are in the negative direction, right? Here, we got 11 significant changes, and they are all in the positive direction. So that's outstanding. And the other thing that I think we've heard tonight in some of the other reports is a lot of the areas where you're seeing these significant changes, so housing and shelter for homeless, and supporting schools, and managing growth and development, these are tied to real things and real actions by the city and your council, right? We heard about the Thrive Center. Obviously, that contributed to the single greatest improvement in resident satisfaction in the last 3 years among those tested. You know, I understand that you continue to support schools and particularly in the area of crossing guards. We just heard some things about your general plan update and, you know, how that obviously is about how you're addressing and effectively managing growth and development. And so these just don't happen by accident, right? They happen because the city has taken action in some way, shape, or form to improve resident satisfaction. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, we heard a little bit earlier tonight as well about the downtown and your plans for the downtown. We took an opportunity in the 2026 survey to dig in on a question or two about this. And in this slide here shows the results to where we told folks that the city is investing in the creation of a downtown in Thousand Oaks, which will provide a number of community amenities. And as we read each of the following items on this list, to just tell us, should this be a high, a medium, or a low priority for inclusion in the downtown area? And please keep in mind that not everything can be high priorities. And you can see that when you do that, there were sort of three things that stood out from the rest as being the top priorities, and that was showcasing local businesses in that space. Folks would like to see a farmer's market, as well as making sure that there are community gathering places. And then secondarily, certainly still popular were live performances, public art, and providing housing. So the city of Thousand Oaks, like all cities, has what is probably a seemingly endless list of things you could spend money on, right? And demands on that on your budget, but you have a limited budget. And so you have to make tough decisions about how you spend your funds and prioritize them. And to help you in that exercise in the survey, we had a question which lets residents speak on these issues, right? And so we inform folks that, you know, the city has a limited financial resources to provide local services, programs, and projects that are desired by residents. And because it can't fund every service, program, and project, we wanted to understand how they would prioritize this list of services. You can see here that there are some things that are, you know, obviously super high priorities: maintaining fire protection services, checked in at the top of the list, maintaining parks and recreation facilities, investing in road maintenance, protecting water quality in creeks and streams, and on down. Some of the things at the bottom here don't test as high in terms of priority. Doesn't mean that residents don't want them, right? The nature of the question is we kind of force competition between these items, right? We say you can't have it all. You've got to set your priorities. And so some of the things at the bottom of the list, again, there are things that residents generally want. They're just maybe don't stack up as high on the list as you see it, fire protection and parks and recreation. So the recent fires that we've had in Southern California over the last 4 or 5 years have really underscored the importance of being prepared to act quickly in an emergency and the need to be self-sufficient, right? There's a lot more residents than there are you know, public safety and first responders. And so it's important that folks have the ability to take care of themselves in an emergency when, you know, first responders may not be available or able to get to them at this point. And so we asked a few questions in the survey this cycle about emergency preparedness. The first was the answer shown here on this slide: how prepared would you say your household is to be self-sufficient in the event of a natural disaster or citywide emergency? As you can see here, you've got about 61% of your respondents who said they feel either well prepared or somewhat prepared to be self-sufficient in an emergency. You've got about 26% who indicated they're slightly prepared, and you've got about 12% who confide that they're not at all prepared to be self-sufficient in an emergency. So feeling self-prepared and being prepared are two different things. And so we followed up that overall sort of assessment that we asked folks to make of themselves with some more specific questions about whether they have each of the items that you see here on the left side of this slide, right? These are all items that, you know, to be thoroughly prepared for emergencies you should have. And you can see that respondents, it's really a mixed bag, right? So there's certain things that most everybody has: emergency lighting and flashlights with extra batteries, 86%, first aid kit at 85%, 72-hour supply of prescription medications for all family members and pets, 78% on down. As you get to the bottom of the list, however, you see some things that most folks haven't really thought of or they certainly haven't implemented. So a family emergency plan that you annually review or practice, just 30% of residents said we have that. Right, a plan to reunite members at a particular location if you're separated. I mean, in certain emergencies, cell phones don't work well, the internet's not going to work well, and you're trying to locate each other. It's helpful to have a place that you all agree that if we can't communicate, we're going to congregate at this one location. Only 36% of residents have that. So, clearly, this is helpful too, because as you go out as a city to communicate with the residents about this topic, you can start keying in on some things that, sort of like a did you know? These are some things you should definitely have. And then finally, and I heard a comment about this earlier about the VC alert. You've got 60% of respondents who indicated that their household signed up for VC alert. You have 17% who said we're not signed up. But you have a big chunk of folks also, about a quarter, who say we're not sure, right? They don't know if they are or not. So much of the community opinion survey is focused on services, but we also take an opportunity in the survey to see how residents view the city government on governance issues, right? So how are you as an agency in terms of providing access to information and being responsive to residents and budgeting tax dollars? So for each of the statements that you see on the left side of the slide, or the dimension, we asked residents to give you a rating in terms of excellent, good, fair, poor, or very poor. You can see here at the top of the list, providing access to information. That was the dimension on which the city got the highest number or percent of excellent or good, followed by engaging with residents to get their feedback and being responsive to residents and businesses. I can tell you that if you compare from 2023 to 2026, these are the same numbers basically. There were no significant changes. About 27% of the respondents in 2026 indicated that they had interacted with city staff during the 12 months preceding the survey. And so for those individuals, we asked them to rate staff in terms of staff's professionalism, accessibility, and helpfulness. What we see here is you continue to get high marks on each one of these dimensions, and there were no significant changes in this from 2023. So shifting gears here over to city resident communication. This is an area that, and I've explained this to the city in the past when we've done this survey in the past. This is an area where even the highest performing cities over the last decade or so have seen some slippage, right? That the satisfaction levels with city resident communication have just been this little slow downward trend over time. And you can see some of that in your data going back to 2009. We've done a lot of digging on this. I think it has a lot to do with basically the changes in technology. The fact of the matter is that there was a time and place where we all read the same newspapers, right? We all watched the same sort of local news. We all listened to the same broadcast radio stations. And so when everybody's concentrated in the same channels, it's a lot easier to communicate with them, right? When people are now scattered all over the place in terms of where they get their information, and there's all these new channels that are out there. I mean, just think about social media and the internet and how many different places you go to and turn to get information, right? It's really difficult for public agencies to reach people in all of those places. And so that's, I think, what a lot of the slow downward trend has been, is because, it's just harder for cities to get through. I also think there's something to the fact that, our expectations regarding the timeliness of information have gone up, right? It used to be the quarterly newsletter was sufficient, right? And now we've all been trained that when you want to know something, it should pop up on your phone the moment you think about it, right? And so I point all this out because against this sort of backdrop of more challenging environment to communicate with residents, the city has actually done a good job sort of reversing that trend into 2026. You can see that in 2026, you have about 65% of respondents who said that they were satisfied with the city's efforts to communicate with them. And that is a statistically significant increase when compared to 2023. You also have a significant drop in the percentage who said that they are dissatisfied. So doing a good job, in swimming upstream against these trends. When we followed up that question with a question about what information sources they use to find out about City of Thousand Oaks news, services, programs, and events, they could choose or they could suggest up to 3 different sources. The distribution is shown here. So the number 1 here is the Acorn. About 48% mentioned that as one of the sources they turn to for news, city news events and programs. But number 2 is social media at 32%. I know that the city has, I think, put a lot of effort into having a presence in social media and making sure that that's, they're taking advantage of that way of communicating with residents, and you see that here, followed by the city's website and then next door. Okay, so what does all this mean? In a lot of ways, when you look at these community opinion surveys, they're a report card, right? They're a report card on the city's performance. And when you go out and talk to residents and ask them questions about how we're doing in this area and how we're doing in that area, they're going to be honest with you, right? They're going to tell you exactly what they think. And so if you go out and you're underperforming in certain areas, I promise you it will show up in your survey. And what's amazing about these results here is that, as a report card goes, it's an excellent report card, right? This is the kind of report card you're hoping to see, because despite being in pretty challenging times in a lot of ways, right, and economically, politically, and others, residents continue to be quite satisfied with the community as well as the city and its performance. And the satisfaction levels are actually trending up, as we saw. We see that in terms of the overall quality of life, in how they assess the city's overall performance in providing municipal services. We see staff who are the sort of day-to-day face of the city continuing to get high marks from residents who interact with them. And importantly, everywhere we saw a significant change between 2023 and 2026, they were in the positive direction, right? Every one of those changes showed improvement, not the other way around. As far as report cards go, like I said, this is the kind of report card that you hope for. And I will promise you this, that when you get these type of numbers, they are earned, right? Which was what I was implying with my earlier comment, that these don't happen by accident, right? When you go out and you perform and residents come back and give you the thumbs up, as they have in this survey, it is a reflection of good leadership, and it is a reflection of good execution. So you shouldn't take these numbers lightly. You should really appreciate how positive they are. In terms of the performance strengths, well, those are all the things that you see here under the bullet. Again, you did really well in a lot of areas. These are areas that I think you did particularly well. Homelessness at the top, I put that in both the performance strengths and the opportunity areas, because although it still remains an area where residents see room for improvement, it should be acknowledged that you've had an 8% increase in resident satisfaction on this issue in the past 3 years, plus in terms of its saliency as an issue that residents want the city to address. It used to be the number 1 last time, and it's fallen down to less than 8% this time. And so it's both really, I think, something to recognize that is one of the strengths of your performance in the last few years, but also one of the opportunity areas. And so with respect to the opportunity areas, I want to emphasize also that a lot of these things aren't things that residents are giving you poor numbers on, right? And many of these things are items where you have, the large majority of residents saying they're satisfied. It's just the areas where you have the greatest opportunity for improvement, right? So like any customer satisfaction survey, it should be a bit about how are we doing today, but also where can we improve those opportunity areas of that area. And so that is the end of my presentation. I certainly welcome any questions from council if there are any.
Mr. Newman.
First, thank you very much for these survey results. There's a lot of great information here. I appreciate all the effort that went into collecting and analyzing the results. I also appreciate the snapshot over time. I wanted to note, I know there's some charts that look at, say, from 2009 to the present day, but I'm struck by several of the greatest hits, if you will. Limiting growth, preserving open space, safe streets, excellent public schools. these seem to be our perennials. Would you agree that these are very consistently the things that our residents rate most highly over, not just in this survey, but over many, many years? Is that
Yeah,
been your case?
absolutely. And it's, it's interesting because you do have areas which you're consistently strong in over time. And then, every once in a while something, rises in prominence and then gets addressed and then starts to drop. And, the homelessness one is interesting because I'm looking back, not on a graphic I have in this presentation, but you can look back to see, like, when did it even really break the top 5 in terms of an issue? And that didn't show up in Thousand Oaks until 2020, right? In a lot of other areas, it was showing up in 2016. It didn't show up as kind of a top off the cuff, top of mind issue for residents until 2020, and it was number 4. By 2023, it was number 1, right? And now it's dropped back down to 5 on its, based on your actions. And so it's interesting to see the things that are really consistent over time, but you will have certain issues that will blip, right?
So because I've been involved in this area since 2014, actually, I would strongly agree that attitudes have really changed toward this issue over time. That on your spending chart, for example, you might have had a result in 2017, say, where people would say 0% of people would want to spend a dime on this issue. Whereas there is, thanks to staff's education efforts, outreach efforts, working with our police, with social service providers, with housing experts, there has been a real sea change in attitudes toward this, and also real results that as we've heard in detail tonight, there have been real efforts toward getting people housed, toward understanding on residents' parts that our unhoused situation is unique to Thousand Oaks. Not many cities can say 3/4 of their quite small homeless population are locals, which is the case here, and that we are doing something about that. So I'm actually really encouraged to see the results in this current survey because they do reflect all the education and outreach and housing development that staff has brought forth over the years. And then the final question / comment was I was struck by how much of a decline there is in resident satisfaction with communication scores. I understand the reasons you said. There are more channels, things are more diffuse. We can tell people 37 different ways and they'll say, well, I'm on the 38th channel, so I didn't see it. So, but it's striking to see that, given that my sense of the city's overall communications is that they're broadening and going out to more channels and trying to reach people in more different ways, and I hope that continues. And I hope over time there's less of a decline in that score. But again, thanks for these results.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't have a question if you do.
No, I have more of a comment. So
Take it away.
No, thank you so much for the survey. The survey, I think, does indicate the results of some of the efforts that have gone into what we've done in the city for the past few years, and it's heartening to see the subjective look by our citizens that we have had some successes. I also enjoyed reading through some of the background information, and it struck me we've seen this occurring over the last number of years, but Councilman Adam likes to indicate that in 1970 the average age was 24 or something like that, and now it's not. But I was just looking at some of this demographic information. In 2009, 15.6% were over the age of 65. It's 26.9 now. We are a graying community. Talks about how many people have kids in the home. In in '09, it was 47.3, now it's 30. So we are an aging population, and I'm wondering if you've noticed this in other cities and the types of challenges that they have come to grips with or that they're seeing in their surveys. I just was wondering if you've seen some trends there that you can share with us so that we can maybe get ahead of some of them.
Well, I mean, I think that your observation about Thousand Oaks in terms of your demographic change is not unique to Thousand Oaks, right? You're seeing that in you know, a lot of people are choosing to age in place, and you know, you're seeing it in terms of school districts with declining enrollment, because as people age in place, their kids grow up and go out of schools, and they're not getting replaced by younger families. Younger families also, you know, the cost of housing is such that it's harder for them to come into some communities. So I don't think you're unique in that way. I will say that it's funny because, you know, we've also worked extensively with your neighbor, Westlake Village, and they were focused on this issue pretty early on. It was, in fact, that's probably the first city that I worked with where they were very conscious of the fact that, you know, they're a community where people, you know, their kids can't come back to live, right? And that's become more common over time in other places just because of the cost of housing. But it was an issue for them earlier, and I think you're obviously experiencing it too. And I don't want to suggest that it's just happening now, but it's just one of those things that is, I think, is a Southern California issue when you're living in nice communities like Thousand Oaks and like Westlake Village. They're struggling with it, I think the housing question, which you seem to be wrestling with directly, is one of those ways to say how do we, as a city, how do we encourage more housing that younger families can afford to come here and live here, and recognizing again that cities typically don't build housing, you can just do things to facilitate it.
Tim, thanks so much for the report. It's always good to see what's going on, the actual pulse on the streets, let's say. And as Bob was talking, last 3 years I've been joining the average with the gray. It's coming in, starting coming in fast. And, with the kids per house, I'm trying to reverse that trend. Yeah, so, on a more of a serious matter, just want to say congratulations. We saw a lot of success in those numbers. We saw 11 different services that had a significant increase. And there's areas to improve, of course, but I do want to congratulate everyone on here. I think that came from us really having alignment on what mattered and trying to make policies to address it. And I think in a lot of ways, we had a view of putting the residents first. And then, of course, the staff, you guys make us look really good. So we appreciate all of you guys being out there and working so hard on this. For the items tonight, we have 11 items. So I'm thinking maybe there's an opportunity for some consolidation. Maybe we can try to find a home for everyone.
As we transition into priorities.
I'm transitioning for us.
Okay.
Moving it.
Moving us along. All right, well, just let me, because I'm going to release Dr. McClarney, if there's no other questions, just want to clear the decks. We do have, looks like you got one from Ty.
Oh, okay. Tim, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor. Apologies in advance for this question. So we have 125,000 residents. 1,071 are captured in this survey. And I understand the statistic footprint that we can confidently say is presented and captured here. What we can't account for are the specific answers. And so I struggle with this very daunting difference. And I don't pretend to be anywhere in this realm of expertise, so maybe I just need some educating. But I still feel through that lens of the residents first and community first, how are we confidently presenting that we have heard all of our residents' voices.
Yeah, so I'll let Tim take a stab there.
Sure. So you're, as a city, there are actually two phases to your research, and you're one of the few cities that does this. The survey that I presented to you tonight is the statistically reliable survey, or meaning that we choose people at random from your community that are adult residents. And the beauty about inferential statistics is, in order to reliably estimate the opinions of a larger population, it isn't how many you speak to so much as it is how you choose the people you speak to that allows you to do that. And so, as I had mentioned on an earlier slide, even though we set out to do 400, because 400 will allow you to achieve the academic standard for statistical reliability, which is a margin of error of less than 5% at the 95% confidence level, we wound up getting over 1,000, right? 1,071. So we have and there's a lot of polls that are done statewide with sample sizes that are smaller than that. So we have a very large sample among our statistically reliable main sample for this study. The other thing that Thousand Oaks does, though, which most cities don't, is after we completed the main sample, the city had prepared postcards and sent them out citywide so that those who weren't part of the randomly selected sample could nevertheless have a chance to voice their opinion. That data, because it isn't done at random, right, we keep that separate from the results that I shared with you tonight, but it also gives folks an opportunity to share their opinions on these issues.
I appreciate that. Was the postcard new this year, or have we always done that?
That's something that's been our tradition.
Okay. And then where does that data go, and do we ever get access, or just a highlights of that?
So coming tomorrow, the survey data, everything gets posted up on the website. So everybody's got access to both survey subsets within there. Dr. Picardi can share with you too, one of the beauties of doing it, knowing that's statistically valid, the data generally mirrors that. What we're really interested in is some of those nuanced things about what was their main issues, see if anything new popped. And Tim, perhaps you can speak to that aspect.
Well, the main thing is I always look at, we know what we're getting out of our statistically reliable survey. When you go and you think about what this other group of data is going to be, and I think we had over 2,000 completes in addition to the 1,000 we had here, I always look to see kind of, where, for the most part, they line up pretty well. When you see a difference, it's always important to think, okay, what is it about this group that might be a little different, right? They're a little more self-selected, right? They tend to have a little more passion, right? Because they're going ahead and, instead of us bugging them to come take the survey, they're going out of their way with the postcard to go do so. And so every once in a while you will see some differences there, but for the most part, they track in a way that's pretty similar. And to the extent that they vary, it tends to be a demographic difference. You can kind of look at the answers and then look at the demographics and go, okay, the demographics are a little different than what our main sample is. And the difference in opinions sort of tie back to the difference in demographics.
I appreciate that. I just want for clarity, I'm not doubting the survey or the findings. It's more the nuance of in a district where I have under 10,000 homes, I knocked 6,000 of them, and the conversations had themes, but they were very different, right, individually. And so I just appreciate with the invitation by the postcard, and look forward to seeing the second data set and where those self-selected folks are, what they're thinking as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Steer us into the...
Yeah, any other questions for Tim? If not, I'm going to thank him. Yep, go ahead, Councilmember Adam.
Appreciate you. Have a great night.
Hold on, Tim.
Right?
Oh.
Who's talking?
Yeah, let's go for it, Al. It's you.
Okay. That's good. Hey, one thing's for sure, the public has incredible importance on fire and police. I mean, it was off the charts. And that just shows you what a safe city we are. And my compliments to our fire and police department on that particular area. And I got to think the uptick we saw in our efforts on homelessness, I got to think that had to do with the elimination of these encampments that was right in the public's eye. I got a lot of complaints about it. As soon as that Supreme Court ruling came down that gave us a little more latitude, we eliminated these unhealthy, unsafe encampments, particularly the one at the boardwalk and at the Newbury Park Library. And I got to think that had a lot to do with the uptick on how we're doing on that particular. And of course, Thrive Grove too. It's not just enforcement. We want to provide housing as well. So I was very happy to see that. There are some. These surveys always have paradoxes. There's one that I see every time. We've got to limit growth, but we've got to have more housing, particularly affordable. Those two don't exactly mesh, but that's been the battle in this city ever since I can remember, right? Limit growth, but have more affordable housing. Well, I think we're striking a pretty good balance there when it comes to how we put in housing along the 101 corridor and this what we've already talked about. So I think we're doing okay there. If I had to give us a letter grade, I don't know if our surveyor would agree, but I think we got an A on that one.
I agree.
You do?
I do.
There you go. That's an A is about as best as you can get. So happy to see it.
On that note, Tim, we'll say good evening. Thank you for your time and efforts.
My pleasure. Thank you. I wish you the best on the rest of your meeting.
So as we transition into priorities here, we have the slide up here. As I sent a note to each of you individually earlier today, it's a unique year here in that we've had a pretty tremendous degree of alignment, some additions and wording components therein, but it was kind of 11 items in the mix that were in the supplemental category. There was a variety of several of you that had talked about potential consolidation. So rather than doing a ranking exercise or anything, we think that there's a ripe opportunity to capture everything that's here, maybe with a little bit of reshaping. So with that, I'll hand it to you, Mayor Taylor. We've got each of the items up on slide, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, and we have them all in front of us as well. Why don't we start with, is there anything that somebody wants to talk about in particular? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Just to kick things off, one overall thought and then three specific comments. On the overall thought is I appreciate your synthesizing all the inputs from council members. I don't think there's a significant difference between the number 10 and number 11. So I hope a non-goal of this exercise tonight is stack ranking. So we try to pick one to throw out. These are all important. That's my overall comment. And then to pick three specific items on fiscal sustainability. I can't overemphasize the work that Jamie and team did to bring us a structurally balanced budget of nearly $608 million for 2 years with reserves fully funded. That's a very hard thing to do. And what Mayor, you and I heard last week in Sacramento is that the state is broke. And what we've faced over the past year in putting this budget together is that there is considerable uncertainty in federal funding as well. And we are also hearing similar things at the county level. So all of that is just to underscore the very meaningful addition Mr. Powers made here of saying we need to remain mindful of uncertainty in funding sources. There are some kinds of projects, I've had this discussion with Public Works many times, saying, great, we're applying for this grant or this program to build a bridge or fill a pothole or something. And if we don't get the grant, we don't do it. And that's fine. We hope we do get the grant, but if something isn't funded, that doesn't happen. There are other programs the city does where there are really severe consequences if that funding doesn't materialize. I'm thinking of things like food and housing supplements that are provided that are in some cases life or death matters for some of our residents. We're not here tonight to line edit a budget, but I do want to be mindful that we are probably going to be facing a challenging environment in terms of funding in the next couple of years. And the question I think we'll all have to ask ourselves is, yes, we all want to do these things. How are we going to pay for them? That's an important question. And then tying into that, on the next point on homelessness, Mr. Powers mentioned the importance, and I can't agree strongly enough, it's wonderful that we opened Thrive Grove. It's making a real difference, not only in the lives of the residents there, but in the overall quality of life for all residents in our city. But the building costs alone are not the only part of that. It also takes money on an ongoing basis to keep the lights on there and to provide the services there. And again, this is a place where we have funding for this current year, for the next year, but we're going to have to keep looking at, we have this successful program, how do we keep it going? So that's going to be something we'll need to think about. And then as well, finally, I'll end up on a good news story, is item 8 on resiliency and sustainability. We have an excellent sustainability story. And even after the horrible power outages the city suffered last year, we have a really excellent resiliency story that we significantly improved last year, thanks to all the hardening that Public Works has done and is continuing to do on our water system, our wastewater system, microgrids, backup systems at city facilities. That's really important. And I want to just emphasize the importance of this item and maybe have us think about it a different way. So many times when we're looking at priorities and do we spend on this or spend on that, this is not an either-or situation. It's not public safety or sustainability. It's not resiliency or quality of life. These all turn out to be the same thing, and that's what's embodied in this item here. So I'm really glad to see this included. But again, going back to my main starting point, I think all of these are important. Thanks.
Thanks, and if I might just add on to that, it wasn't that long ago that we were all in the council chambers together during the great power outages that we had back at the beginning of 2025, and that all across Southern California, but in particular Thousand Oaks, and there was a lot of really unhappy folks. And if you fast forward and look at the urgency with which this council directed funding, grant dollars, and things to do that, now having, just think about the intersection taping we've done.
Yeah.
North of 90% now have that safety mechanism on there. That wasn't the case then. It was a number much lower than that.
In 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
All right. Mr. Newman. Oh, geez, Louise. Mr. Engler.
Thank you.
Between Al and I.
To tag along with my colleague, Mr. Newman, and Mr. Adam, I think this exercise we go through this year is really, I think we need to combine these. We can't come really to just 10 because all of these items are interrelated. The downtown relies on working on codes. The homelessness interventions we're doing, which I think we've had success with, but it's not time to take our foot off the gas yet on that. It's related to the public safety and quality of life that public safety brings to our community. The resiliency that you just spoke about, Mr. Newman, is related to the public works. I might suggest that we combine say, some of the public works things with the resiliency things, since they really are part of the same house so much in our operations here. In Public Works, who's, as I mentioned before, is doing such a great job anyway. We'd love to pile a little more work on your backs. But I think all of these items are so important for us to move forward that I would just combine, say, some of the resiliency things with the Public Works, and we can come to our 10 top priorities in that way.
I like that idea. Mr. Adams?
Yeah, I do want to thank Mr. Powers for putting together this list of priorities. It's very helpful and very concise and all-encompassing. It's a great read. Every single one is important, and like Bob said, they're all related. But traditionally, we do end up with 10, and I think you got it right there, Bob. I think we could combine resiliency and sustainability with public works. When you look at resiliency, hardened city facilities, signalized intersections, water infrastructure, Hill Canyon, it really does relate a lot to public works. So to get us down to 10, I think we could combine those two. Maybe you call it public works, infrastructure, resiliency, and sustainability. but we do need to get down to 10, and I don't see any other opportunities for combinations here.
One thing I might offer up, as you're discussing here, is because we do try to balance the things out. One of the things you might the resiliency pieces could have a public safety component. The sustainability pieces have a direct linkage into public works. So, and again, we don't wordsmith it here. We bring it back for you to confirm these at the council. But we could split the items that are within those into those categories and place them in those zones so that it balances it out a little bit if that's the direction you guys end up going.
Let me actually take a second and ask something on that. Is there a better way to do it? Because I agree with what Mr. Engler and Mr. Adams said, that 8 could go into 10. Are there parts of 8 that you think would fit better in 10, and then parts that would go into 11? Because I know you know the staff and what their bandwidth is. So I guess what we're looking for is a staff recommendation.
I think they could fit into Public Works just as easily. So it's really whatever your pleasure is.
Okay.
Mayor,
Mr. Newman.
I mean, I take Mr. Engler's point on the Mayor Pro Tem's point in that there is if we are looking to combine these, and again, I don't think we need to, but if we are, number one, parts of what are currently in resiliency and sustainability are public safety items. And here's an example. When we had those massive PSPS outages last January, a lot of the city traffic lights were out, and there were, unfortunately, major injury accidents as a result. That's a public safety concern. It's also a public works issue, I'd agree, but I will also want to endorse Mr. Engler's comment that these are all interrelated. The reason I hope that stack ranking in trying to find one of these to pull out to get to some number is not a goal tonight is I don't want to say that any of these, particularly resiliency and sustainability, isn't a top line issue. I think it has long been a priority of this council to be a leader in resiliency and sustainability, and I would like that to remain so. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Gutierrez?
I would say my only comment, I think in just keeping with providing another cycle of within its, or just keeping continuity, right? From year over year, we've had 10. I appreciate that. I think in asking staff to map where these live in our departments, maybe even asking Jeanette what capacity and workloads and what hiring or open seats we have impacts. I think those are more important questions related to finance, how we're going to afford to do all of these things as well. So I'm not opposed, I think my point is, I'm not opposed to repositioning so that we can get to some continuity year over year. That is the work that I've inherited, and I would like to move forward. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So let me touch on the organizational bandwidth piece. There's organizational bandwidth to accomplish the items that are within here, and if there wasn't, then I would open with that rejoinder.
All 11 items.
Yeah, correct. And I want to talk about, just for a minute, for continuity purposes, why we have 10. All right. There's been years when there's been a desire for 16, 18, 20, right? There's an erosion in focus that happens. And so while when you just have 11, the 11 is representative of alignment, right? That's fantastic. I think it's consistent with what you heard here tonight on the survey results and everything else. In terms of where the council wants to land on what lives where, there are pieces within, Akbar and I were just talking, like the first component of the resiliency and sustainability, the resiliency projects that harden city facilities, signalize intersections and water infrastructure locations. I could park that under public safety very clearly. And then we could move the remaining pieces and add public works, infrastructure, and sustainability as a priority if that was your desire. So there's ways that we can go about doing that. I don't want to Councilmember Newman's point, I don't want to get into workshopping the language specifically, but I hear where the conversation is leading.
Okay. I personally like that idea. I like taking that first section, moving it into public safety, and then reworking the title. I think that's what you just recommended. Reworking the title of 10 to Public Works, Infrastructure, and Sustainability. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Is resiliency no longer a goal?
We could add resiliency. I would add resiliency under public safety as a part of the bolded section within it.
That seems too easy to me. Mr. Engler?
For me, it's not, it doesn't matter what header we put it under.
Yeah, I agree.
It matters the task that is going to be accomplished by our staff.
Yeah.
And I would be happy to allow the city manager to organize it in a way that makes sense, both organizationally and for making sure that we have all our bases covered. So I would move that we take these tasks that we are trying to direct our staff to, have our city manager take a look at where these should be put and where they should live, and then we come back, I don't know, Mr. Powers, sometime in the near future, you would be coming back to us?
They always end up coming back to you it'll probably be one of the May meetings that would come back to you for final action and approval.
So I would move that to allow city manager to arrange them in a way that makes sense, but that we accomplish these goals.
Yep, well said.
To get us to 10.
Well, and what I heard is the desire in the headers to keep the spirit of the entirety of the items, and then to have things live in a manner where we're not diluting the content that's there, just simply aligning it in the space.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Focus on the same things. We're talking basically branding at this point, right? Okay, any other discussion before we move to a vote? All right, will the city clerk please call the vote?
Yes, I'm going to call a voice vote. We'll start with Councilmember Adam.
Yes.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Yes.
Councilmember Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Engler.
Yes.
And Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next is city manager announcements. Drew Powers.
Yeah, I would just, this is a non-budget year, so we don't traditionally touch goals and norms, but we traditionally afford, this is a conversation point, if there is anything within those that the council has questions or comments about before we move to close.
All right. I will now adjourn this meeting to the next regular meeting on May 12th, and we'll be back at City Hall. Thank you, everyone.